is a special election night edition of the Q&O podcast. We said we were going to do it live, and we are doing it live. I think I made my music a little too loud, but welcome to the podcast. I'm Dale Franks.
I'm Michael Wade.
And, well, we might as well get straight into it, I guess. I'm looking at Decision Desk HQ, and it's been an interesting night so far. A lot of red in the middle of the map, pretty much where we expected it. A lot of red just popping in, as a matter of fact. A new calls coming in for North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Wyoming, and as expected, they are going to Trump. So at Decision Desk HQ, the current count on electoral votes is 95 for Harris, 194 for Trump. Decision Desk HQ has an interesting thing, which is this graph right here. Donald Trump's chances of winning the election. When I first looked at this at about 15 to 5, it was sitting at 64.3. It has been up. At 5:30, it got up to, 5:46, so just 15 minutes ago, it was at 71.9. Now it has declined back down again to 67.8. I'm not entirely sure what that means, other than Trump is still favored to win the election by whatever methodology they use.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally just a chance, right? I mean, this is your basic statistical reasoning in order to reach some sort of probability, and it's worth fuck all.
Yeah, that's I can remember in 2016 watching the New York Times. They have a similar meter, although they have it as sort of a dial with a needle, and seeing needle start off at like 70% at the start of the night, and then watching Hillary Clinton's chance of winning decline to 0 was an interesting night. By the way, the first comment, LFG, I think we all know what that means. Peter Colley says, love the shirt, Michael. I probably should have worn something rather more patriotic, but I don't actually have anything patriotic. But I do like the 1776 shirt.
And it's a zip.
And it's a zip. Yes, I see that. So we're looking at, Pennsylvania. That really is the key to this.
I mean, this is the gold mine, right? I mean, this is the MacGuffin. This is the thing that we need to really pay the most attention to. There are many different scenarios without Pennsylvania coming into play, but I don't think there are any scenarios where I think Trump still has a very slight, narrow path to victory. If Kamala takes Pennsylvania, she has no chance.
Yeah,
it's the crown jewel.
Yeah, if Trump wins this, it's over. If he doesn't and Kamala wins it, really hard to see what his path is. He'll have to take North Carolina. He'll have to take Wisconsin. He'll have to take Michigan. That's a big ask.
And he would have to take the Sunbelt states as well.
Now, the thing about Pennsylvania is the early voting in Pennsylvania has been really positive for Republicans, and they have made back a big deficit in their early voting. Those numbers don't appear here. We're not seeing any of those. Pennsylvania is not going to count those until later. So I have watched as Kamala Harris's lead has dipped from 72% to 64% in Pennsylvania as numbers come in, but there are huge swathes of Pennsylvania where they have not reported anything yet. Bedford County, Clearfield, McKean, Elk, nothing is coming in at all from any of those places.
Erie, Lincecum, there's Bucks County right outside of Philadelphia. hasn't reported, and there's been a lot of weird things going on there. Um, yeah, there's, I mean, essentially just like every other state, the city areas are largely blue, and as are the, some of the surrounding suburbs, and everything else is pretty red.
Yeah, the trouble with cities is that they have to count a lot of votes, and so it
Right.
takes them longer to finish reporting. And so they're always the
And
ones
since
that
they
are.
don't know how many they actually need to win,
Yeah,
they need to like let other.
they need to let all the other counties report first before they
Right.
finish their reporting. Which, by the way, Philadelphia, I would not surprise you. Look at those numbers in Philadelphia. It's only 15%, but 87.4% for Kamala Harris in Philadelphia so far, with 15% in. But so much of the state just has nothing being reported. And even those that are trending towards Trump, I mean, 77.4% in Potter County, Tioga County, 61.3%. Again, 12% and 23% in. So the numbers are not quite there yet in Pennsylvania, but this is the
It's
one.
very, very early. And there's also because of some anomalies. Again, Bucks County comes to mind. A few other counties come to mind. Uh, there were some anomalies with respect to um, machines not working, not having the right number of ballots, having bad ballots.
Yeah,
Uh,
one of the counties in Pennsylvania has now been mandated by the court to stay open to 9:30. Another one
right.
has to stay open till
Until like
10.
10 or something. Yeah. So there are lots of weird stuff going on. That doesn't mean anything nefarious is going on. It's, why chalk up to nefariousness when you can go with just pure incompetence? And that is typically the case.
Well, the incompetence is really irksome because who runs the government or the
Democrats.
elections? The government.
Yeah.
And so how much trust. And here's the thing that really irks me. Look at this. This is Florida. 10,518,265 votes, or 206 votes counted. 95% done.
Yeah. They're gonna have everything wrapped up in a nice little bow before some of these places even finish voting.
There is no reason in 2024 why every state can't do this. Literally none at all.
And of all people, it was Jeb Bush that like made that possible, wasn't it?
I mean, everybody who revamped Florida's election system after 2000 should be continuously employed in every other
Right.
state in the
In
union
every single state until we get it right.
because this is ridiculous. Florida is a large state, and the fact that they can count faster than, well, Florida's larger than Pennsylvania. How come Pennsylvania can't do this?
It's larger than New York at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So it is an embarrassment that it takes this long for so many states to count. And, like New Jersey, they've counted 1 million votes in the time that it took Florida to count
10
11.
million. 11 million.
So no surprises in New England. One surprise in West Virginia. If we move away from the presidency for a bit and we take a look at the
Yeah,
Senate,
that's actually a pretty big deal.
big flip. Joe Manchin has lost his Senate seat in West Virginia. That is a Republican flip. So even if everything else goes as expected, the chances are, well, as Decision Desk puts it, there is a 98.2% chance that the Republicans will control the Senate. However, there is still a 52.7% chance that the Republicans will control the House. So far, there have been 3 House seats flipped from Democrat to Republican.
There's also a lot more open House seats this time around, I believe.
Yes, there are 435 open house seats.
Well, you know what I mean.
You mean seats where the incumbent has decided to go.
Right.
So no incumbent for those seats. So it's, one of the reasons that 2020 was such a weird year is that the Republicans did well in the legislature, both in the House and Senate. Although the Georgia thing kind of threw everything into a cocked hat, but at least they won the House, and yet Trump lost the presidency. Now that's unusual. And Trump had anti-coattails in 2020.
Very much so. And then he exacerbated it by telling people don't go vote in the second round and stuff. That was just dumb.
In the runoff in January. Yeah, don't go vote.
Yeah, that was just dumb.
They're just going to cheat. I would have had a get out the vote effort like you wouldn't believe, just to try to drag Herschel Walker and whoever else it was across the finish line. That didn't happen. The expectation prior to tonight, excuse me, was that the Democrats would end up with about 3 or 4 extra seats. And they would end up with a majority. It's now back down to a 50-50 chance, and indeed a slightly better chance, although I'm sure within whatever margin of error we're talking about, that the Republicans will actually end up in control of the House and the Senate, irrespective of who wins the presidency.
Yeah. And this is the problem with the echo chamber that is Washington, D.C. These people don't hear what we do out in normie land, where people are like, why do I need to use these pronouns? What, you're making up words that I have to use now? You want to do what to my children? Wait, I don't get it. I have to pay more for gas because why? Like, none of this stuff makes sense to just normal everyday people.
That's because normal everyday people aren't captured by an ideology.
Right.
And the trouble with ideological capture is that, and this is increasingly happening to both Democrats and Republicans, is that you live inside this bubble where you hear what you want to hear from the people you want to hear it from.
Yeah, this is the problem of the uniparty, right?
Yeah, and so there's never any engagement with contradictory ideas, and you never have to be in the position of having to defend your ideas against someone else who has a different background. And I think that the term that they used back in when people were blogging was epistemological closure. You just build this community of people who all think exactly the way that you do, and therefore you never see anything that frightens or confuses you. Which I guess is fine if that's how you want to live day to day. I guess that works out okay for you. But in the real world...
Well, until reality breaks down the door.
Yeah, in the real world, that ain't how things work. And so it's been really weird especially over this last weekend, in the last 4 days in the run-up to this election, looking at Twitter and seeing people who are totally convinced, on each side, by the way, that we are headed for a landslide victory of one sort or another. And I see Democrats say, Harris has this in the bag. This thing is over. And Trump people saying the same thing. There's no possible way that you can know this. And it really does depend on who shows up on the day. Somebody had a thing today. I think there's only one thing that matters, and that's turnout. Really, Einstein? Is that the thing that matters, Professor Pauling?
Captain Obvious. Well, what's interesting is the way people are betting, because the way they're boarding up DC and New York and San Francisco and Chicago and Detroit,
doesn't look like they're
kind of gives you an indication. Maybe they think that Trump's going to win.
Doesn't look like they're prepping for a party of joy does it. Which, by the way, that reminds me. And I know this is all a bunch of heathen foreigners, and that Americans can't take part in this market. But if we take a look at Polymarket, that's what they're telling us. That a Trump contract is now 73%.
And over the last it's something like 20 25 years or so, that's been the most accurate poll that we've ever found.
Well, I'm not sure
Because
that's
it's a moving average. It's always a moving average. And so it's going to settle somewhere.
yeah. So it's settling at 73.2 currently on Trump on that contract. I guess we could. I guess we could look at. Don't they have charts for this stuff?
They do for some of them.
Oh,
yeah.
there we go. Right there, right up at the very top. So
Yep.
that is the movement that we have seen today, just in
That's called a preference cascade.
just in Polymarket. It sure does look like it, doesn't it? I mean, it looks like we've just decided Donald Trump is going to win. So, by the way, if you think Harris is still going to win, you really do need to jump in at that $27.40 contract, because
No kidding.
that's going to pay out $100. I mean, if you can't take almost a 400% windfall, then you're a shitty investor. I really like Real Clear Politics about some things. This not so great. I want to see if they've changed their whole thing here. What am I looking for? I'm looking for the RCP betting average. And now this is just an average, but I don't know how. Yeah, it hasn't changed all day. So they're updating this on a daily basis. So it's not catching any of these big swings that we're seeing.
But they're doing it across all the betting markets too, right?
Yeah, they're using Bet Online, Betfair, Betson, Bovada, et cetera, to come up with what it is. But all of the markets, I mean, the best that Kamala Harris is doing is in Bovada, where she's at 42 cents on that contract. So,
So there's
still doesn't look all that great.
58% chance she's going to lose is what that bet is.
Yeah, so a couple of more things. Let's go back to the presidential election, because there have been a couple of changes here. They have now put Trump ahead in Wisconsin with 60,000 votes counted. That's 2%. So,
With how much?
2%.
Oh, yeah. That's
And they have him at 60.1. Michigan, 11% in. Harris is at 53. But again, if you look at Michigan, it's all coming in from outside Detroit.
Right.
Where she's got some big numbers, over 60% in
But again, they're
Washtenaw
not counting
County.
all the early vote.
But it's that early vote that is gonna come cascading
Because
in.
here's the thing, all those banked votes, and this is what Nate Silver was depending on, was you don't necessarily know who they voted for, but when Republicans are turning in early votes and Democrats are turning in early votes, you can pretty reliably agree that they're going to go for their own party. And the overwhelming number of early votes from Republicans this time around, not mail-in votes, but early voting, really kind of swamped the system. Because and here's what people were wondering, and I've heard a bunch of analysis about this over the past couple of days, is, well, are you just cannibalizing your same day election vote, right? People who would vote on election day are just voting early now, and so you're not going to have as many show up. Well, apparently, yeah, there's some. There's always going to be some, but election day voting still favors the Republicans. Apparently, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know how to tell you
tra-
if that was true or not.
traditionally Republicans show up on election day 5-3, and prior to election day, it's Democrats 5-3 in the early voting.
Right.
By the way,
I mean, I voted today. I would only vote today.
yeah. By the way, Polymarket's still climbing on Trump, 73.5% now.
Yeah, that's starting to look like a spread.
Now, does that mean anything? I don't know. That's the trouble. We don't know anything. The last 4 days.
Well, it shows that people are willing to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, heathen foreigners on Polymarket.
They'll bet on anything.
Yeah, there is another one that somebody has been talking about, Kalshi or something like that. Yeah, it's Kalshi, I think. And they're running a betting market that is actually legal in the United States. And let's see, that is a particular post from Kalshi. I don't actually want to look at that. I actually want to look at where they're at. So this is what they were putting out 5 hours ago at 54%.
That looks fairly close to what I was thinking the map was going to be.
And now Kalshi is looking at it as of 19 minutes ago at 67% for Trump.
I'm not thinking they're going to win Wisconsin. I'm still skeptical about that. Nevada is also a little close, but
well, we can actually take a look at that if we look at Wisconsin. The trouble is, all of these numbers for Trump, and Trump is ahead currently, 56%. But
there's like what?
3% reporting.
Right.
So what does that mean? I don't know. We've got Green Bay, we've got Milwaukee, Madison, which is obviously 4% of the votes counted. Kamala Harris at 67.6%. So, who knows what's going to happen there? But those numbers should start coming in pretty quickly from Wisconsin and Michigan. And by the way, just as a note of how Decision Desk does this, these states that you see with the cross-hatched lines, that just means that the Democratic or Republican candidate is currently leading. It doesn't mean that they've won. However, if we're looking at electoral votes currently, it's at 210 Trump, 95 for Harris. Now, we're going to see Colorado, New Mexico definitely are going to go for Harris.
I mean, I don't even know why we count votes in Oregon, Washington.
Yeah,
and
Oregon,
California.
Washington, and California. We already know how those are going to go. So this is going to be solid blue when it finally gets out here. And by the way, we're still more than an hour and a half away from any sort of close on the West Coast, because I believe in all three states they close at 8:00 Pacific time. So we are going to be waiting for a while.
Although is Arizona later or earlier? Because they don't do. Does Arizona do daylight?
Arizona does not do daylight savings time. So Arizona.
Oh, so then they're on the same time as all the rest of us. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so Arizona's on Mountain Time, which means that their closure comes in about
at 10 o'clock my time,
7 o'clock my time.
7 o'clock your time, yeah.
But the numbers from Arizona have actually, especially in those early voting numbers, have been fantastic for Trump. So that's going to be an interesting state. In fact, I tell you what's interesting about Arizona, and I actually want to go in and look at this. Well, we don't have anything reported. I'm curious as to whether these early voting numbers that we've seen so far reported out of Arizona indicates that Kari Lake may actually win that Senate seat.
That's been the reporting for a couple weeks now. I mean, and it's been very quietly reported.
Yeah, that would be fascinating.
It's been there.
Yeah, that would be fascinating, because that would look, for whatever reason, like her or don't like her, she has not been a great candidate in the past. And she has not prevailed in the past. These voting numbers that we're seeing from Arizona I think indicate to me that Arizona is going to go Republican this time. And I think there's an excellent chance that Nevada goes Republican as well. But again, we won't know until at least
I think the border issues
45
are really
minutes.
pushing the things in the Southwest. I mean, New Mexico is still going to go Democrat for some reason.
It's called Albuquerque.
Well, yeah, right. And then nobody else living anywhere else in New Mexico.
You got 500,000 people in Albuquerque, 50,000 in Santa Fe.
Right.
They're all going to vote Democrat. And then you have 400,000 people in Las Cruces, Deming, Socorro, Truth or Consequences, who are all going to vote Republican. And it's never going to be enough. Because, half the population of the state literally lives in Albuquerque or Santa Fe. More than half.
And they have family on the other side of the border.
Yeah. So New Mexico, that's going to be a goner for both Trump. And look, so is Colorado. I mean, I think they haven't called it yet.
Yeah, I agree. Colorado's going to go blue.
Yeah, Colorado is done. Colorado's a blue state.
Iowa is showing as blue right now. That's just so stupid.
Okay, so let's go. And I haven't looked at them, and I actually wanted to. Let's go to nyt.com because Peter in chat says the NYT needle is now lean Trump. It is leaning Trump. There we go. I would have liked to have taken a look at this needle earlier. I suspect it was at toss-up. I don't know. But that's interesting. They're looking at 285 to 253 in the Electoral College for Trump. Harris, 0.5 up for the popular vote. I hate another election where someone wins the popular vote and loses the Electoral College. I'd like that to work differently. But interesting that the New York Times now has Trump at 67% chance of victory, or 65%. So for the first time tonight, says Nate Cohn, our estimates indicate that the race leans towards Mr. Trump. So Peter Colley says, was toss-up, but on the Trump side when I started looking at it at about an hour ago. So it's looking pretty good for Donald Trump. Now, one thing that we are not going to do tonight is pull a Young Turks program where
right.
if Kamala Harris wins, we have a meltdown. There will be no meltdowns. We're just going to take a dispassionate look at what's happening and just talk about what it is that we see.
And then explain how they cheated.
North Carolina for Trump. So North Carolina, with only 54% of the vote in, Decision Desk HQ calling it for Trump. Trump now sits at 210 electoral votes.
I would like some more of that vote in North Carolina to come in first. I'm not comfortable calling it that early. I would like to see more of the vote coming in.
95% from Columbus, 23% from Robeson County, where Trump is doing very well. Nothing from Fayetteville, nothing from Cumberland County. Raleigh, more than 75% of the vote in. Winston-Salem, 47% in.
Yeah, that's a little low.
Yeah, but 26. But as you go out into the west.
Yeah, sure, but there's a lot fewer people out there.
Well, yeah, that's true. 95% in, 18,000 votes. That's
right.
that's not a great number. So.
Yeah, I'd really like to see some more returns, especially in the Raleigh area, Charlotte area, the beach area, actually. The Outer Banks and the Intercoastal.
Yeah, well, we know there are some states that are going to go to Kamala Harris that aren't being counted yet on her 105 votes. So most likely, well, Maine, big news in Maine with 4 votes counted. Donald Trump and Kamala Harris are tied 2-2. I suspect that is not a situation that will obtain much longer.
Well, Dixie's Notch ended up with a 3-3 ties.
Well, yeah, that's true. Dix's Notch in New Hampshire, 3-3. So I expect Maine goes to Harris, as does Connecticut, of course, New Jersey.
Well, yeah, just
Delaware,
give her the whole Northeast.
Yeah, all of New England goes to Harris, with the possible exception of Pennsylvania, although I don't think we consider Pennsylvania New England.
No, it's not. Anything south of New York is not New England. But Pennsylvania is going to be the big one. Now, if we just game it out, let's say that Trump does win North Carolina, does finish off Georgia, and does win Wisconsin, but not Michigan. Interesting. That means that Kamala has to win at least one of the Sunbelt states, right?
Yeah, it does. Real Clear Politics, unfortunately, is not showing their map. So we'll have to come back here. Let's say that we throw Pennsylvania to Harris. Just for giggles, we'll throw Georgia and North Carolina to Trump.
And then give him Wisconsin, but give Michigan to Harris. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, but okay. Let's just say it happens.
If that happens,
then it's over.
Trump still wins.
Right.
That's the thing. If Trump wins North Carolina,
the entire South, absent Virginia, and he takes 2 of the Midwest states. I mean, Ohio was always going to take, but if he can win Wisconsin or Michigan.
Yeah, Wisconsin or Michigan.
He does have to win Arizona.
Yeah, he does, because that's 11 electoral votes.
Yeah. So that's a possibility for a trip up.
I don't think that Trump is going to win Michigan this time out. I mean, it's possible.
I don't think so either.
But I don't think that's going to happen. Michigan.
But I'm really
maybe.
doubtful he's going to win Wisconsin. Why would he win Wisconsin and not Michigan?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's just I'm confounded by that.
See, this, even if we assume that Nevada goes to Trump, right? Harris wins. But she has to pull, because it doesn't look like she's going to win North Carolina. So she has to take all 3 of these states.
And she has to get the extra vote in Nebraska.
Yeah, well, we've already got that
right
factored in. We don't have Nebraska 3 factored in. But so
look, that looks like a plausible map to me as well.
Sure, if she wins Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, then she doesn't need.
Her blue wall. That was the whole point.
Yeah, that's it. Then she takes the cake at 270 to 268. But she has to run the table on those 3 states. She can't lose one of them. If she does, it's difficult to see how she gets elected. I mean, look, even if we give her Nevada, she can't lose Michigan, because that doesn't do it for her, and it does do it for Trump. Let's put this back in that column. Well, let's put Michigan back in her column. No, she can't. She can't lose.
No, it's still. So she has to run a clean sweep.
Yeah, even with Nevada, she has to sweep all of them, because Trump won, or it looks like Trump is going to win North Carolina. So if that result holds in North Carolina, then she has to win everything. She has to run the table. Now, happily, it's 3 states that tend to vote Democratic all the time. So she has an excellent chance of running all of those states.
It's called the blue wall for a reason.
Yeah, Democrats usually win in those states. Whether they'll win tonight is an open question. She can't lose one of them. If she does, this thing is over. I mean, even if Trump just barely squeaks out 272 because he loses Nevada, it's still over if he wins any of those states. So that's where the key is to this election, and it's the only thing that gets Kamala Harris past 276. And even at that, yeah, if Trump wins Nevada, it still gets her there. She still gets 270, but she has to take those.
She has to take all 4.
No, she just has to take
3.
Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. That gets her to 270. Because we know she's getting these 3 states. We know she's getting those 2. And we know she's winning Minnesota. Anybody who thinks Minnesota is in play is most likely quite wrong. So just gaming it out, that's what she has to do. And
that looks right to me.
And if I was guessing, based on the early voting that we've seen in Pennsylvania, and they had like 180,000 Amish just show up to vote today in their little...
Did they really?
Yeah, in their little horse-drawn carts. Apparently, they're a little pissed off about a couple of things, and so Amish are showing up to vote.
Imagine.
So if this is what it looks like, then Trump becomes president again. First president since Chester Arthur to lose re-election, come back 4 years later and win again.
Well, that's who Grover Cleveland beat, right?
Wait, no, it was Grover Cleveland who came back, not Chester Arthur.
Right. That's who he beat, was Chester Arthur.
Chester Arthur won and then lost.
Although this is an even weirder one where the guy who won didn't even make it to the ballot, but his vice president did, who never received a single primary vote in any election ever.
Yeah, well, I did see the news today that Joe Biden has decided he'll be watching the election returns from the White House. He won't be joining the Harris campaign at their...
What are the chances
vigil.
that Jill wrote in Joe Biden today on her vote?
Probably he and Jill both wrote in Joe Biden when they showed up today.
Honest, he just had a stamp. He just pressed it. He didn't write anything.
So Trump is still staying up there at 65% or above. So they're looking at 278 to 260 based on their
what's going on in Georgia
current
right now?
Projections. All right, well, let's take a look. Well, we got a lot of the central part of the state not reporting in. So if we take a look at the southern part of the state that is bordering Florida, still nothing from Brooks County, but look at 61% so far for Thomas County, Lowndes County, 58%, Eccles, 90.9%, with, of course, 1,438 votes counted. So we still have that area around there. We still have this area on the coast not reporting in at all at McIntosh County. Toombs County, nothing. So there's still some reporting that is coming in. If we look at Atlanta, well, let's see.
There are a couple of blue areas there.
Yeah. Fulton County, Harris at 80%.
Right there in the middle.
Counted. But yeah, this is Atlanta and its environs. Fulton County, of course, 72.6% Harris. Clayton, 84%.
Fulton County,
82%.
Good old Fulton County.
Good old Fulton County. 60% in Gwinnett. Newton County, 53%. So she's doing really well around Atlanta, Columbus, and Savannah. In Columbus, she's 62%. Just barely ahead, however, in Harris County. And 55% in Talbot. So I don't think that that's enough to drag her across the line in Georgia. Because overall, we're at
It doesn't look
seven.
like it because while there's like two blue counties, districts there to report, the rest are pretty solid red. The blue parts are fairly consolidated. Um, I'm looking at the gray parts, and most of those ones right there in the middle are actually red, except for right there, that one. Go
Right.
up one. Yep,
Hancock.
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so that area around in there. But they haven't reported anything, and so we're looking at a lack of information. By the way, Trump now down on the percentages to 64.7%.
He only needs 50.0000001%.
Yeah, well, he doesn't even need that in the popular vote. He just needs 270 electoral votes. He has
What are the
210.
chances he actually could win the popular vote? I'm skeptical, but
I thought they had a popular vote thing, and they don't here. The New York Times, well, that has changed. It was Harris at 0.05. Now it's Harris at 0.03. And they're leaning to a 67% chance of victory for Trump now. So that is up by 2 points as well. So their projection.
and that's New York Times, right? Yeah, it's New York Times.
So New York Times projection is 286 electoral votes for Trump. They have to be counting. They have to be counting Pennsylvania in there. They have to be counting some sort of likelihood.
Well, the parts that have reported, yeah, and trends.
Yeah, because even though
and well, Nate Silver is still affiliated with the New York Times, isn't he?
No, he went out on his.
I know he has his own thing, but doesn't he work with them during elections?
I don't know. He was with ABC. And now that you've mentioned it, it would just be interesting. Well, I don't care about what Nate Silver looks like. I don't.
He's apparently
news.
a professional poker player too.
Yeah. So his final silver bulletin
in the red county votes is far outpacing the difference in the blue county votes. Some places not so much, especially around, well, Fulton County. Yeah, shocker. But in a lot of these deep red places, he's racking up some numbers. Again, it's total numbers that matter. So, you know.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what he's going to have to win. I mean, that's what it's going to take to win in Pennsylvania, because we know that Philadelphia and Pittsburgh are more or less lost to him. But this great big swathe in the north and central part of Pennsylvania, he needs to have a bunch of Republicans show up, and they need to vote with a greater propensity than they have in the past. And so,
well, they've apparently done a very good job. So the local radio here, WMAL, conservative radio, has kind of Selena Zito like gotten their feelers out all over the state. Some guy you remember Sean Kennedy, big time into local Virginia politics and stuff. He's been reporting, he's been out there digging up stuff. And it's really been interesting to see just how not only enthusiastic, the excitement, you know, the preference and the enthusiasm to vote amongst the GOP in Virginia has really outpaced the Dems in the places where, like, I've been hearing stories about people who haven't voted in 40 years, 30 years, showing up to vote. Now, you don't know necessarily who they're voting for, but when they go to the Republican, you know, sample ballot and ask for that and ask for some help, I haven't done this in a long time, you get the feeling they're probably voting Republican. So I think that the Trump campaign has done an admirable job. And really, I would say the RNC, Laura Trump, in targeting people who don't necessarily vote, um, don't see it as worth their while, and motivating them to get out and vote. That seems to have worked quite well, at least in Virginia. And again, we're probably still not going to win Virginia, but it's going to be a lot closer, I think, than people realize.
Well, right now, Trump is with 63% of the votes reported. Trump is slightly ahead of Harris. Now, the projection is that Harris is going to win this.
Of course.
Because that number, I mean, we're talking about 6,000 votes where he's ahead now. And look,
right.
his problem is that we have these counties out here that are, I didn't mean to click on that county. So I'm learning the UI as we go. Say 9,000 votes in Buchanan, 6,000 in Dickinson. Okay, great. But if we run back over here to Richmond, 80,000 votes from Chesterfield. They're only 40% in. Although Trump is actually running Trump is running very close to Harris there, within 0.2%. So
Chesterfield is Chesterfield, Colonial Beach. These are heavily African American areas, south of Richmond, south and east of Richmond.
Yeah, so and traditionally Democratic voters.
Very traditionally Democratic voters. If he's making any inroads in there at all, I'm not saying that means he's going to win, but it does put a dent in her ability to close it out.
The most interesting number I saw that's directly relevant to that is something I saw yesterday, where it was just a final poll that when it was talking about who do you support, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris.
Right, yeah.
And Kamala Harris, Biden polled at 90% in 2020. Kamala Harris polled at 85%. Now, that's 5% of 13% of the population. So I'm not going to do that math in my head. But that 5%,
do it for you?
That 5% is a significant number. So losing 5% of the black vote to Donald Trump is not great. And everything that I've seen with Harris indicates that she is underperforming what Biden did.
She's underperforming both Hillary Clinton and Biden, especially amongst black males, Hispanic males, even women. That's surprising.
That is surprising.
That surprises me a lot.
But I think the delta there is the fact that married women have been breaking for Trump while single women have been breaking for Harris.
And that's always, and so that's why they try to go after the younger, and then the old hippie lobby, right? The people who are never worried about getting an abortion again because they've already gone through menopause, but they want to fight for those rights anyway, and blah blah blah. Well, that's who their allies are. That and young women who want to kill their babies.
And look, especially for older women, I mean, this is a group that has a high propensity of voting. And we talked about this on Sunday. That's been Harris's entire campaign pitch. People who...
Yep, that's absolutely right.
Who show up to vote because she feels, or felt, I guess at this point, she felt that those high propensity voters would be enough to drag her across the line. But like we just
She
talked
went
about,
for the Karen vote. She
yeah,
went all in for the Karen vote.
which is fine because that's more than half of the electorate, and single women support her at a rate of close to 70%.
Dale, that's not nice. I don't think more than half the electorate is Karens.
No, women are more than half the electorate.
Women are, but not all women are Karens.
Yeah, but 70% of unmarried women support Kamala Harris, and a majority of married women support her as well. I mean, that is, when you're talking about half the population.
Actually, I'm not so sure that's right, Dale. So I saw, I can't pull it up right now because I'm not sure where I saw it, but I did see, and this was coming from, it was not coming from a conservative source. It was coming from, shoot, where was it from? It was showing that white women were actually in favor of Trump over Harris.
Married or unmarried?
Black women, were it was a slight difference. And black women were way high above, in choice, like 2 to 3, 3 to 4, something like that, or 3 to 1. But she did not reach as many women as it's been alleged or supposed. She has pissed off a lot of women. And look, let's just be honest. Kamala Harris, however you say her name, is so phony, so fake, so disingenuous. She doesn't have an authentic bone in her body, and it really rubs people the wrong way. Guys might be able to put up with it a little bit more. Women do not. They're really sensitive to that thing. And if they don't trust you, if they really, really, really just don't trust you, it doesn't matter what you say, what you do. You can present all the great things. You can be perfectly lovely and never do anything wrong. They don't trust you because they don't believe you. And she has that problem with women.
There's nothing about her that is authentic. That's her problem. If you were to say, hey, come on my show, and which is what Joe Rogan would have tried to do. Come on my show, let your hair down. Let's just have a conversation. And I think she instinctively knows that there's nothing to converse about. She reminds me in many ways of Obama, where there's just this sort of a blank slate of a person.
That's what that was definitely her. That was her model. That was her MO. But what Obama has that she doesn't have is
charisma
and slightly a personality. And he's not completely stupid. She's dumb as a box of rocks, has never actually earned or accomplished anything.
One of the telling things I thought about her campaign was, and it became kind of a joke, sort of a meme on the right, is what accent is she going to drag out today whenever she talks to all of these different people? And
absolutely, yeah.
She talks to a Hispanic group, and all of a sudden she starts to talk like this, and it is so phony. And I don't know.
You get my meaning, hissy.
Yeah,
you got the back of the car.
It's this pandering thing that, and by the way, Hillary Clinton did it too. Her famous.
So does Joe Biden.
Her famous recitation of the old black
I
spiritual.
Ain't gone too far.
I ain't no ways tired. By the way, people who are born and raised in Chicago should probably try not to do Southern accents. They're not super great at it. But Kamala has that same problem. And the reason why she slips into these accents and stuff like that is that she, as far as I can tell, doesn't have the confidence or the capability of presenting herself as a whole person.
Yeah, exactly. She has no actual personality that she could present to people.
Well, yeah, I
That
mean,
she
maybe she
feels
does. I
would
mean,
win people.
she has a family. She's married. I mean, she
She
projected
has no kids.
some. Well, no, she has no kids, but I mean, certainly she must have some personality, but either she has no confidence in it,
Does
or
she?
or it is such an awful personality that she can't project it to real people. And so it's always this facade where she just sort of morphs into whatever she thinks her audience wants to see. And when you look at it, and several people have put together like a compilation of all of her different accents, it just comes across as fundamentally dishonest.
Yeah, and that's why she's just not a likable person. I mean, she's just not. And the cackling and the and you know what I'm talking about, right? Which is her way to get out of not actually having to explain what she's talking about. She just wants everybody to assume that we're on the same page, even though I haven't explained anything to you about why we're on the same page. But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like we're simpatico. No,
Yeah,
we're not
and
simpatico.
that laughter,
You're
by
a
the way,
fucking moron.
that laughter, by the way, strikes me as nervous. I mean, it's clearly a
Yeah,
forced
absolutely. Yeah.
kind of, but hey, as long as you're laughing, you don't have to talk. It's the talking that gets her in trouble. By the way, let's go back, take a look at Pennsylvania, what the current state looks like. Got a lot more
So
results in.
The BBC is saying that 23 of 51 um, uh, contests have been rejected. I don't believe that's true, but
No, maybe the BBC is projecting.
I'm just telling you
them.
look. They're getting tired over there in England.
Yeah, it's way later for them than it is for us. What we
They're
have
like,
seen,
God damn it, please get to the damn end.
what we have seen in Pennsylvania is that early lead for Kamala Harris, where she was at 70% when I was looking at this when Pennsylvania first closed and the numbers started coming in. That has now been whittled down to 1% ahead of Donald Trump. So, I mean, that's still 800,000 votes. So that's still I'm sorry, 80,000 votes. So it's still a big number. Well, wait a second. It's 1385, not 13. So let's look at four numbers instead of two. So 85 to 18. Okay. So now we're at 33,000 votes. 32,000 votes now, as the ticker
because
just
the
changed.
polls are just ending in a couple places in Pennsylvania right now.
That is right.
Because they had some of them that were open late, and they had to stay up until 10. It is now 10 o'clock on the east, or almost 10 o'clock. It's 9:58.
9. Well, according to network time, it's 9:59. So these counties are going to start coming in. I think Cameron County was one.
Oh, here we go. So BBC is saying the next polls close in 10 seconds.
Well, there we go.
I'm really curious. So one of the reasons I love watching the BBC is because they get so excited about it. They don't really understand it. They find it absolutely baffling. But they actually do a pretty good job of giving you at least like a basic understanding of what's going on. Okay, so Montana, Nevada, and Utah just closed. Total of 16 between the three of them. Yeah. 16 electoral votes.
Yeah. Neither one of them is, all of them together is one North Carolina.
We already know where they're going, so it's like
well, the problem with this country
is
Nevada
is the one, I guess. Yeah.
The problem with this country is, Illinois to the east, that's where the people live. And from Missouri to the west, that's where the animals live. And that's why these states are pretty darn important.
All right. So Utah, Montana, BBC is giving to Trump. So that's a total of 10.
Montana, Wyoming, and Utah, by the way, are all falling to Trump. I'm shocked at this unexpected electoral result for those three states.
Right now, this is how the BBC has it. Here, I'll just turn it a little bit for you here so you can see that they have 172 votes for electoral votes for Trump, 81 for Harris. Now, a lot of that's because New York isn't done yet. Massachusetts isn't done yet. There's a whole, I mean, how many votes, Dale? Like 130 or so in just that northeastern part of the country.
Yeah, because New York has 34 or so, I believe. New Jersey
I think
has...
it's like 30. Well, it's gone down, but yeah, it's I think it's still, let's just say 34. Massachusetts has like 20 something. Connecticut has I think 11 or 12. New Jersey has almost 20. Vermont doesn't have that many, and New Hampshire, between the two of them, about 10. Maine has 4. But there's a good number of votes that are about to come in.
Yeah, New York is 28, 14 in New Jersey, 7 for Connecticut, tiny little Rhode Island with its 4 votes, Massachusetts with 11.
That's only 11. Wow, they've lost a lot. What's Connecticut?
Now, the big number for Kamala Harris is going to be Maryland at 21. New York, of course, is going to be big for her.
Maryland, she'll easily take Maryland. It's not even going to be close.
Tiny little Delaware will give her 14 electoral votes.
What? No. 14? No. Delaware does not.
Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. I didn't uncover something. Sorry. Delaware's 3. Sorry. I had Massachusetts also unchecked, and so I was getting a.
When did Delaware get so popular?
It's like Delaware is just one big city. So forgive me. I'm trying to click on states and grab their numbers, and if you uncheck 2 of them, then you get the numbers for both. So my fault entirely. Okay, so
now we're looking at.
So there has been a change. Pennsylvania.
So she got a big chunk.
Pennsylvania has crossed over to Donald Trump. Wait, no, it just crossed back over to Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and it's going to keep doing that for the rest of the night.
Yeah, this is going to be hard to watch. And again, we're still not seeing all of that early voting being counted. That is going to come across as a big bolus of votes.
Yep.
And that's going to be interesting to watch. Is that going to be a jump into the red or a jump into the blue? But overall, Donald Trump still at 68.7% for decision desk, still projected for 279 electoral votes. New York Times, still the same. Oh,
wow, that's a big jump.
That is a big change for the New York Times. And while we're watching this, let's see if I can't just Control plus this bad boy and make that big enough to be worth looking at on the screen. So they have just popped Trump up to a 75% chance of victory. popular vote estimate ahead of Harris to 0.3, and 291 to 247 electoral votes. So there's a
Wow.
there's a high range of estimates there, but it's looking worse for
None of those estimates
Trump.
are good for Kamala, though.
No, the trends seem to be moving away from her. And again, what we're looking at are statistical models.
Right.
They're assessments, they're
And they are scientific to a certain degree, but garbage in, garbage out.
okay. So let's go back and take a look at Wisconsin. Now this is starting to look a little more interesting.
If he takes Wisconsin, I don't see how she can win.
Well, she can't. She has to take Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. She has to.
He needs one of the three. She needs all three.
She needs all of them because it looks like she's lost North Carolina. So of the 4 states, she has to take 3 of them. And Donald Trump only has to take 2. And then this is over. We can all go to bed.
Yay. I would like that.
Yeah, well, you're 3 hours ahead of me, so this is obviously much more of a burden for you than it is for me.
And I had a kid I got to take to school in the morning.
One of the there aren't a lot, but one of the nice things about living in California on election night is that you pretty much know what happened before you went to bed.
Yeah. So my wife is out there right now. She knows that I'm on live, and I guarantee you that I'm going to be getting texts in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, well, mine is upstairs, so I can barely hear. I don't know whether she's watching us or whether she's watching the television or whether she's got both
Fox.
of them.
You know she's watching Fox.
Oh, no, I can tell you for a fact that she would not be watching Fox. Newsmax maybe, but not
Newsmax.
Fox.
Okay, yeah,
but not Fox.
Right.
Not those commie liberals
not those
over
people
at Fox.
the commies who called Arizona.
So I just got home from poll duty. Jim McGinnis is joining us. He's one of our regular viewers. I just got home from poll duty. I was registering new voters. We had a new record for day of voter registration. Turnout was in excess of 80%. I then took part of the tallying of the checklist. Correction, in excess of 90%.
In what state?
Yeah, Jim, what state would that happen to be? I mean, that is a big number and a huge turnout. Now, obviously, we're looking at one person in one precinct in a state. And
Still.
I don't know what that state is, but that's a big number. Again, Trump saw his path to victory as getting low propensity voters out to the polls.
And they never wavered from that path. That was kind of interesting. They were getting counseled to try to, I guess,
New Hampshire, by the way.
New Hampshire, okay. They were getting counseled to diversify their interests, but they really went hard at, and it reminds me a little bit of what's that scene in the social media, the thing about starting Facebook,
the social network,
where Sean, well, the character Sean is like, let's call it a little bighorn. You just surround them, and then the rest of them fall. there's sort of a bit of a very serious strategy here that, look, we're not going to concentrate on those people that we can't turn. We're not going to waste our time on. How about the people that we can turn? How about the people that we can get out to the vote? And if we can get them excited, they're going to get other people excited.
And
it seems to me like a pretty winning strategy.
well, when you have an electorate where basically 60% show up and 40% stay home, which has been
Right.
fairly standard for a long time.
It means there's an untapped
Yeah.
wealth there.
Yeah, a huge untapped resource in the electorate. And if you can connect with them and you can get them excited and get them elected. Look, this is what Scott Pressler did in Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
And we're
He
about
worked his ass off up and down Pennsylvania. He got, I mean, this guy on his own registered more Republicans, new voters, in Pennsylvania than any other state has ever got, to the point where it went from a D plus like 8 average of registered voters to an R plus 3 or 2 or something like that.
It's an amazing change just in registration. And he has spent the entire day dragging people to the polls. I imagine
he is committed.
I imagine at this point he's a little tired. But speaking,
you know what? You gotta love that guy. What kills me too is, look, this transgender guy, I guess. I don't know. All I know is that, like, all he cares about is we can't let government take over our lives. And he has put every last effort he could possibly do, a personal space and time and money, into making sure this happens.
He left
kudos
everything,
to you, Scott. That's just amazing.
He left everything on the field. And
absolutely. This guy did not rest for 1 second. And the girl, I don't know how you want me to refer to you, Scott. I'm happy to refer to you however you want. You are an amazing person. I am absolutely blessed
as vote
that
person.
You are in our lives.
So, since we were talking about New Hampshire, this is what New Hampshire looks like right now. Less than half the vote is counted. We've already decided that it's going to go to Kamala Harris. I'm going to assume that's because, that strip from Concord
just by the
down
way,
to Nashua.
BBC's getting ready to call Georgia for Trump.
Well, finally.
They're really, really close.
By the way, Trump leading in New Mexico.
Really?
For what it's worth. I want to look at these numbers. 21% in.
Well, yeah, that's every place outside.
Yeah. Now, yeah, this is literally every place outside. So basically, the interstate highway from Roswell down to Alamogordo are all voting for Trump. But unfortunately, Bernalillo County is not reporting yet, and those numbers are going to change. It's going to look much closer to Santa Fe County, where they have started reporting, and currently it's 85% Kamala Harris. So
I will never understand why New Mexico is so slavened to the Democratic Party, other than Albuquerque. It's just like, do you not see the problems going on in your border?
Look, it's the same thing that we see nationwide. Urban areas are solidly Democratic. Rural areas are solidly Republican. But when you have more than half of your population that live in,
living in those urban areas.
This isn't 1897 where, 85% of the population was engaged in either ranching or farming. That's just not the country we live in anymore. The vast majority of Americans live in either the suburbs or in relatively urbanized areas. And then you have all of these states here where the animals live that have, 3 electoral votes. I mean, if bears and elk could vote, I'm sure that they would be even more conservative. But
well, maybe not.
The wildlife
like
states, the wildlife states just don't cut it.
No, and well, whatever. Different conversation, different day.
But those are largely rural states. But even in states, and look, I'm sure that there's been some reporting in, and I keep hitting the back button when I don't mean to. You have to navigate inside here. But let's take a look at Montana.
I'm actually kind of curious as to where Virginia.
Nobody's reported in Montana, so they've called it for Trump, which we all know it's going to go for Trump.
Well,
but
it will.
But even in Montana, if you look around Helena or Billings, you're going to get a different electorate. We can look at, well, again, Casper and Cody haven't reported yet.
So I was talking to my daughter about this earlier today, and there's a really good reason why urban communities would have more trust and faith and need for government, in that your rights are not as sacrosanct, and certainly not as it's a lot easier to violate your personal rights in a closed in quarters, lots of people on top of each other. So there's certainly a need for a bit more. Hey, we need somebody to be an arbiter of how to figure these things out.
Yeah. So also, let me take a little bit of issue with that. I don't like the way you framed it, because I don't think it's that it's easier to violate your rights. I think it is the fact that you're all shoved into this area like rats in a coffee can makes you far more amenable to compromise on some things, so that all of the other rats in the coffee can don't go batshit crazy.
You know what? I'm not going to say that's not true, but I don't think that's central to the problem. I think a lot of the problem has to do with the fact that, I don't have any way to get this trash out of my way. I don't have any way to make sure the sewage goes where it's supposed to go. I don't have any way to ensure that, I have potable drinking water unless I go through the government, because everything has to be, we're so consolidated. We're so on top of each other that we do need some sort of arbiter.
Well, that's
and
the problem.
I understand that for an urban.
Yeah, because you can't have 10 million people in Manhattan digging a well.
Right. There's no real self-help available to you. Right? So you do need a strong governmental presence. I don't think it needs to be as strong, but I understand the impetus towards having that sort of protection. But that's not how you run the rest of the country.
No.
All the rest of us are perfectly fine. We'll figure it out on our own.
Yeah,
we're actually really good at it.
One of the problems with getting rid of the Electoral College is the fact that if you do, then New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago are going to be making decisions about how you live in Montana, Wyoming, and Nebraska and Iowa. And the policies that work well, or whether they work well or not, the policies that people will accept in those cities are not policies that will work well or that people will accept in the country. The whole point of the Electoral College is to ensure, and most people don't realize this. This is the thing that really irks me. It is distinctly anti-democratic, and it was there for a reason. The original reason was that in 1790, 19% of the population of the United States lived in Virginia.
That's right. Yeah.
Or North Carolina. And quite frankly, the rest of the country didn't want a bunch of slave owning aristocrats running the show. And so they intentionally put that in there.
That's a really good point that nobody ever brings up as to the compromises that were made.
Yeah, every compromise that was made in the Constitution was a compromise to limit the power of the slave states to the extent
That's
that
absolutely true.
To the extent that the slave states would accept it. And
that's the whole 3/5 compromise.
Yeah.
They only counted them as 3/5 of a person. No, you idiots. That was the way that the North tried to reduce their influence.
Because it was the slave owners that wanted them counted as one whole person.
They wanted to count them as an entire person.
That would give us a lot of extra congressional seats in Virginia. And of course, we have to remember that Virginia at the time was both Virginia and West Virginia. There was no West Virginia. It was all one state. Peter Colley had noted that we should look over at the live presidential forecast on the New York Times. Chance of winning. We're leaning Trump with an 81% chance of victory. 0.5. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's a percentage or whatever. Let's pretend it's a percentage. Giving him...
I think that's a probability.
0.5% bump on whether he'll actually even win the popular vote. And they're looking
right now, I just got this off the BBC that Harris is 0.1% ahead of Trump in Virginia, with over 80% of the electorate reporting. Now, obviously, her lead's going to grow.
Yeah, we're still under 30,000 right now, but
right.
And we do have more than 95% reporting. There's nobody that lives out in Russell or Lee counties, right? Danville City hasn't reported. 95. I'm just going through these counties.
So now, and also BBC is saying that with 53.6% reporting, Trump's up 50.9 to 48.2 in Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, they've already called Virginia for Kamala Harris, but boy, that is a close margin.
Way closer than it should be. It should not be close for her at all.
Yeah, well, you've got 220,000 votes in Loudoun. Fairfax, she's way ahead there, 421,000 votes. Prince William County, 57.6%. I would like to see what Biden's numbers were in the D.C. area.
They were much higher.
Back in 2020. I mean, that is a narrow margin. I mean, still, we are looking at slightly under 30,000 votes, and it's difficult to see with 95% reporting. It's difficult to see how that switches substantially.
So Trump's got nearly a 200,000 vote lead in Georgia with 85.5% reporting.
Okay, well, she just got a little bump there. So that's Virginia. Surprisingly close in Virginia. That's a purple state number. That's not a blue state number.
It should not be this close. It should not be this close for Kamala. You have to understand, we surround D.C., right?
Yeah, Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William County. That's where all the government people live.
There are 4 counties in northern Virginia that are dominated by government workers in, not just D.C. I mean, they're spread out all over the place, but they are federal government workers. Quantico's there. I mean, it's the fact that she's doing that piss poorly in Virginia gives me a little tiny bit of hope. Just a tiny bit, though, Dale.
Yeah, well, Quantico's down around here, right?
Quantico
It's
is
in
up a little bit
Stafford.
further.
Isn't
Yeah,
it in
right about there.
Stafford County?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I've been there 4 or 5 times. I should know. But, that whole area around there, back when I was a defense contractor for 15 years, that was kind of my occasional stomping grounds.
Yeah, and it's a weird mix. There's lots of Democrats, there's lots of Republicans, but it is almost all military. And that's the thing about military. I've never found military people to be terribly one way or the other.
Military people tend to be non-political. But you mentioned, by the way, the win chance on decision desk for Trump is now at 72%. So if we look at Pennsylvania, we now have 54% reporting. Trump ahead by a substantial margin for Pennsylvania.
Has anybody called Georgia yet? Or is that still up in the air?
It looks like they've called Georgia for Trump.
Okay, and so that gives him. Oh, okay. So that's a different number that I'm looking at. Okay.
So we're currently at 242. Wisconsin, very interested in what's going on there. 95% reporting.
So we don't have anything from. We have nothing from Milwaukee. Nothing from Milwaukee.
No, we do have something. We have 50% in from Milwaukee, where Harris is carrying it at 67.2%. But
wow, that's kind of low.
We don't have anything from these counties in central Michigan,
which have
in the
like
peninsula.
25 people.
Yeah, which have like 25 people. Those are all farm, rural communities. There's maybe 2,000-3,000 votes in the entire
that
county.
Upper Peninsula has.
Well, not the Upper Peninsula. I'm talking about the peninsula out of by Green Bay,
yeah.
Wisconsin.
Yep.
So it is dead even.
There's no other real big pocket there, though, is there?
Madison.
I
mean, and of course,
Madison's not in.
Madison is 72% in and 73% for. But I mean, Madison is UW territory. That's where all the lefties are.
Yeah, exactly.
That in Milwaukee, and she's not doing as well in Milwaukee, obviously, as she would in Madison.
All right, I need to go back to this. Hold on.
Just be sure that we can't hear it. We can't.
I understand. It doesn't matter if you can hear it. It's just a picture.
Well, it does matter if we can hear it for copyright purposes.
Oh, good point. So even the better that we can't hear.
Peter Colley says, I am disappointed with my co-residents in Prince William. Well, that should be something that you are regularly disappointed with, I should think.
Why is this?
I'm not sure.
Just stop. God damn it.
Not sure what we're looking at.
Never mind.
All right. Let's
go back to TV skills.
Let's go back to screen share. So Donald Trump, dead even. Oh, nope. He just ticked up 0.1%, but we still have less than 50% coming in Wisconsin. I would love to see what that Harris party looks like.
Do we have a TV timeout here at any time? Or
would you like a timeout? Because we've been here for an hour and a half.
Yeah, Daddy needs to visit the.
We need to go to a little analyst's room.
I've got some things to check up on.
Okay.
A few streams I want to check out.
All right. Well, while you do that, we'll watch for you to come back. We're at screen share. What am I turning off? I'm turning that off. Okay. So let's take a look at Wisconsin. Once again, Peter Colley, I thought I moved far enough out, but Mordor on the Potomac is spreading. Yes, it is. And in fact, those 4 counties, well, 3 counties at least, Loudoun, Prince William, and Fairfax, are among the most affluent counties in the United States. Funny how the counties that immediately surround Washington, D.C. are the most affluent counties in the country. I think there's probably something wrong with that, even if I can't quite put my finger on it. So we're neck and neck in Wisconsin, which probably does not look good for doesn't look good for Kamala Harris. This is one of the blue wall states. She should be wildly outperforming there, and she's just not. And once again, I hit the back button on my browser instead of the stupid back button that they have in the screen UI. Michigan, that's close. There's a lot of counties that haven't reported in, but there are a lot of counties in the Upper Peninsula where no one lives, where, Trump may get a net 20 votes. But even with all of this, we're seeing a steady climb, both at Decision Desk's prediction of Trump winning up to 72%, and we're now at 83% on the New York Times. So, as far as I can tell, this is heading towards a Trump victory, and indeed the popular vote estimate is now coming back, is now continuing to rise with Trump at plus 0.8.
Towards the right there, doesn't it?
This looks very similar to what I saw in 2016. However, this one went from toss-up to lean Trump. In 2016, it went from lean Hillary to very likely Trump pretty quick. One of the problems that we have as just sort of independent watchers outside of the world of political analysis is that we don't really have direct access to any of these models.
Right.
And so we don't know what's making these needles point the directions that they're pointing. We can only see it as it happens. Trump up to 0.8 now. So let's take one more look at Polymarket while we're here. And I don't know why I've chosen Polymarket, probably because I know the URL. So therefore, I know exactly where to go.
Whatever's easiest, man.
Yeah, whatever's easiest. Okay, well, as far as I can tell, that's what a preference cascade looks like.
That's exactly what it looks like.
On the other hand, you're now at almost 9-1 odds on Kamala Harris.
You know what that graph looks like? It looks like, so that lady I was talking to the other day, who I offered a drink, and she said, yeah, it gives my legs a problem. And I was like, well, I mean, it makes it like shaky or something? No, it makes them spread.
Yeah, well, that's a well-known problem. Well, the legs of this chart are definitely spreading.
They're definitely spreading.
So 11.9%. All of the indications are from all of the predictators.
Oh my God. Did that just change again?
No, it's still 83. And still Trump at 296. So I don't know what's making them think that this is where we're going, but all of the indications that we're seeing is that Trump is going to win this thing.
All right, so now I'm getting Colorado stuff, which I assume would be in the Harris column, correct?
Yeah, I think you have to pretty much count Colorado. Well, they've already called it here at Decision Desk. Kamala Harris with 62%
now I'm also getting
in
Nevada.
We don't have anything from Nevada currently.
And Texas. Well, I mean, Texas is a foregone conclusion.
So 53% reporting in Arizona. There's 3 counties we care about.
Maricopa?
And that, well, Pima, Maricopa, and Coconino. Although relatively few people live in Coconino. Really, you care about Maricopa and Pima County because that's where
and Maricopa can't get their shit straight.
They never have been. 56% of Maricopa County in. Trump is still running at 48.5%. Now, I expect Kamala Harris to win both Maricopa and Pima County, but
Which makes no sense, right?
I expect her to win by more than that in Maricopa. What is Pima? Yeah, 52% in Pima County.
Maricopa is a red county, I thought.
No, Phoenix. Sorry, my friend. Pinal County is red, which is just south of Phoenix, but Maricopa, no, Phoenix. Like Albuquerque, Phoenix is like Albuquerque in New Mexico. Phoenix is the 800-pound gorilla in in Arizona. Followed though,
desert.
But again, around 500,000-ish people live in Tucson as well. So those two counties are where the lion's share of Democratic votes are.
Well, Flagstaff, Scottsdale, that's all around Phoenix, right?
No, Flagstaff is up north in Coconino County.
I thought it was around Phoenix.
No, Flagstaff is way up just north of the Grand Canyon. Well, sort of north and... Is north or south? Actually, it's south. Just south of and west of the Grand Canyon. So it's 2 counties away. But yes, Tempe, Scottsdale, those are all basically suburban communities of Phoenix.
Yeah, so I was talking about Scottsdale.
Yeah, well, you said Flagstaff. So
the point being that it's that close.
It's that close, but that's with 56% of the votes counted in. We haven't gotten the big dump.
Right, yeah.
Yet, but that is closer than I would have expected. I would have expected something more like Pima County, not quite as dramatic as Pima County at 62%, but 50.7%. That's
surprising.
Super close.
And again, this is all before they count the early vote. They're just counting the today vote.
Yeah, but see, here's the thing, right? We're at 56% of Maricopa County. That's 1.1 million votes that have been counted so far.
Mm-hmm.
In Mojave County, we're also 62% in with 68,848 votes. And the problem with Arizona is the same problem with New Mexico. No one lives here. It's the desert. There's no water. It's 150 degrees in the shade. So, I mean, it's that hot in Phoenix too, but they have a river. Well, they have a riverbed. In any event, that's where people have decided to live. And so it is closer.
Just FYI, BBC has Trump at 207 and Harris at 91 right now. Electoral votes.
So Decision Desk is at 242 and Harris at 108.
So it's all trending the same way.
Yeah, it's trending the same way. Polymarket has now dropped Harris to 9.3%. Okay, those are 10-to-1 odds. 9.2.
They're selling those options right now as quickly as they
9.2%. So this is your last chance.
Just give me 2 cents, man.
Okay.
Just give me 2 cents.
8.8 cents. So 8.6. Wow. We're watching. Oh, wait, no, we're back to 9.1. Damn, should have bought in at 8.6. Now I've missed my opportunity to make a big killing when she wins this thing and she walks away with it. It's now gone to 86% for Trump with 297 to 241 electoral votes. And an estimate that he'll win the popular vote as well.
I am not comfortable calling this race until
Pennsylvania
is known. I think we have to know Pennsylvania because every other scenario depends on it, right? There is no scenario that you can do with Pennsylvania just being discarded. At least no realistic scenario.
If Trump loses Pennsylvania, well, let's go back and play games.
He's got a narrow path, but he's got a path. Very narrow.
Okay, so we have to. What have I done? Oh, I was playing around with this, and now it's all. There we go. That's back to no, because I put all these states in red when I was going through there, and let's let's rewind this. It's not even going to rewind this bad boy.
Doesn't matter. You can change it though, can't you?
Well, unfortunately, it stores my results, not. Now it's my results are stored here, so I'd have to go back in and mark all of these damn things as blue again, which I'm gonna do. So give me a second here. Gosh. Okay, so that's all of New England. So this is what it would take for Kamala Harris to win. So let's say she takes Pennsylvania. If she takes all of these states and Trump wins Nevada and Arizona, he's still 2 electoral votes short. So,
What if he wins Michigan or Wisconsin?
Michigan or Wisconsin, he wins. Right. Now, let's make this trade. At that point, Kamala Harris wins. If he doesn't take Arizona and Wisconsin.
Oh, if he doesn't take Arizona. Yeah, okay.
I mean, he would have to take Michigan. And he could lose Arizona.
So what we're trying to decide right now is how long before we go to sleep?
Well, for me, it'll still be a while because it's only 7:45.
Yeah, for me, not so much.
Yeah, for you, it's starting to get a little late. So, if you feel like you have to drop off, I get it. It's getting awfully.
My kid still has to go to school now.
Yeah, it's getting late out there.
Sun's sinking low, man.
7.8%. Hey, you know what? I'm glad I missed that earlier buying opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, not comfortable calling it, but as far as I can tell, everybody else is calling it.
All the trends are going in the right way.
Trump's way. He's ahead by.
But we don't know what the fuck's going to happen.
He's ahead by 2 points in.
I'd feel really much more comfortable if Pennsylvania was called. Pennsylvania gets called, I think it's over.
Well, we still have 2 counties that haven't reported anything in. I don't know who lives in Clearfield or Cameron counties in Pennsylvania.
I'm not thinking it's a bunch of Democrats.
I'm not thinking it's a bunch of Democrats, but I'm also not thinking it's a bunch of Republicans either.
It's probably not a bunch of people, period.
Probably not.
Maybe beavers.
Yeah, I'm sure there are plenty of beavers. If only beavers could vote. But we're still not calling it.
Or raccoons and squirrels.
Trump's still ahead slightly in Wisconsin. 55% of the vote.
That's
now
just
coming
amazing. I mean, I got to be honest. I really did not think that he could pull this out, and now it's looking like it's actually possible. It's pretty narrow, very narrow.
It's narrow. It all rests on Pennsylvania. And you know what?
I'm just talking about Wisconsin, being able to pull Wisconsin out.
If he wins Wisconsin, it sure gives him a lot of breathing space.
Ben has many more options, and Kamala must win Pennsylvania.
You need to get closer to the mic, by the way. I'm being told.
I'm sorry. So, yeah, because I'm leaning in towards the computer so I can see. Yeah, so it looks to me like Trump can win Wisconsin and still lose Pennsylvania and have a chance. Kamala cannot lose Wisconsin. and win. I don't think.
Look, Trump is
Unless
already.
she takes, unless she sweeps the Sun Belt, or at least one of the two. If she takes Nevada or Arizona,
Now, if Trump wins Wisconsin, because she's already lost North Carolina,
right?
so if Trump wins Wisconsin, she could still win Pennsylvania and Michigan and still lose if Trump wins Nevada and Arizona. So
Yes.
those 16 electoral votes now become super important to Trump if she wins Pennsylvania. But if she wins Pennsylvania and Trump wins Michigan, then we're going to be here for a while. We are not going to know until very late tonight what these numbers look like in those two states.
But that doesn't look anything like the electoral map we've been looking at for the past several months.
No.
I don't see Pennsylvania and Michigan both going. If anything, they're both going to go to Trump. They're not both going to Kamala.
No, I think this is probably more likely.
That looks a little more, yes.
Now, still, that puts Trump at 287. And the interesting thing is they have Trump at 290. Oh, well, still 87% chance of victory. Now a full 1% lead in the popular vote estimate and 299 electoral votes. What is that 299 coming from? They've got to be counting Michigan in there.
They do. Yeah, that's right.
They have to be. With what we know
and
so
Wisconsin,
far.
Right?
7.3%. You know, it really is interesting that these betting markets are getting so far ahead of what we actually know. So, you know,
Milton Friedman wouldn't be surprised. Actually, Hayek wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, but those aren't Americans.
I don't even think John Kenneth Galbraith would be surprised.
Well, 7.2%, it's not looking great for Kamala Harris there. So that 299 indicates to me that they're thinking Trump takes Wisconsin. It gets
Which
297. Now, 299.
With the extra, you're right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering, is that Maine that we're looking at
that puts
for
it over the top?
Another.
So she doesn't get the extra vote.
Well, Maine has.
But the Democrats always get that extra vote. It's a congressional district, right?
Maine does it different. There's 2 votes for the state. That's their 2 Senate votes, basically. And then they have 2 congressional districts. So it's looking at 1-1 in Maine. So I don't know, because if you got the other one, then all 4 votes would go to Trump from Maine. So I don't know where they're getting that other vote unless they're looking at Nebraska and
that he's going to give all the votes.
And they're thinking that Trump is going to win. That 299 is a weird number for me. So
I see no blue there.
Well,
except
Lincoln and Omaha.
Right. Is that the congressional district that gets the extra vote?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he's clearly taken the state. But again, we've only got 47% reporting here. The trouble is that all of the networks have access to other results that haven't been officially certified. And so they can make little guesses. Now, this is interesting. Maine just switched red.
What?
Trump is now ahead by just 2,000 votes in Maine at 51.1%. Harris is
in Maine?
Yeah, Harris is at 47%. That Jill Stein is really hurting Harris. And Cornel West.
No, I didn't think about that. Yeah.
I mean, that's more than 500 of the 2,000 vote difference right there. So, that is interesting. Let's go back at New Jersey. We expect New Jersey to go to Harris. Pretty narrow, though, 52%, with 70% reporting. And, of course, Morris County not yet reporting anything yet. Not yet reporting anything yet? Yes. That's how English works.
Wait, go back to that
Um,
because
Jersey?
that's to Jersey. Yeah. All right. So that one part that's not reporting.
That's Morris County.
Yeah, Morris County. So that's Jersey City, I believe, is there,
Yeah, what you would
and
expect would go Democrat, right?
very much so. Um, I'm surprised that they're so. Jersey's a weird place, right? Because it's basically the suburbs of New York City. So it's all blue down there in those beach areas, but the rest of it is farmland. Well, that's not true. So if you go where the top of the corner of that box is, that's where we'll go down, go down, go down, go up. There's a little notch there in New Jersey at the red and blue area. Go up to it's on the east,
Here?
up one just a little bit. Yeah, right in there.
Middlesex.
So
Okay.
that little notch is right where New York City comes in. And so the rest of that is above New York City. So all the beach areas down there, Atlantic City, Ocean City, you got dry counties down there. They're fairly conservative, but there's like nobody that lives there. It's all vacation homes. Up in the northern part, north of Trenton, every single part of that is people who either work in Jersey, in New York, or in Pennsylvania. Every single one of these people. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of finance.
Well, it's closer than I would have expected in New Jersey. Now we're just looking at one county. We'll go back to the whole state. But still, Trump not able to break 46%, not even coming
I mean, it's Jersey.
near. I
It's
mean, it's
still a
Jersey.
very blue area. But that's actually kind of an impressive showing.
Yeah,
It's not winning,
yeah, but
but to
holding the
make
Democrats
that
to
much of an inroad,
52%. That's a
yeah,
that's an inroad. I mean, it doesn't do anything but change sort of the popular vote total. It doesn't
it does not.
doesn't
No.
flip the state, but it does provide you know
And we're not talking, Reagan in 1984 here,
no, that's
but
not going to happen.
it certainly does have a feel of Reagan 1980. I got to be honest.
Yeah, and like 1980, the weird thing about that was that Carter was ahead right up to a week or two before the election.
Huh.
I mean,
Funny how that.
it looked like Reagan was just going to lose that thing, and then in the last 2 weeks, the break towards Reagan was pretty substantial, and he ended up
Well,
with over
the support was always there, and they made it known. Reagan was extremely popular. I mean, he had already gathered a bit of a following. The people who hated him, much like Trump, I hate to compare Reagan to Trump because they're not even remotely the same
they're
type
not
of.
this one of these things is not like the other.
Right. But what they did both do was they shattered that consensus, that political consensus. This is how things are done. This is how we're doing them. We will only do them this way. And Reagan came in and said, that's just stupid. And here's why. I mean, he did that famous uh, uh, debate he had with Bobby Kennedy. Bobby Kennedy came out and said, "Why did you put me in the ring with that guy?"
By the
I
way,
mean,
Kamala Harris now down below 7.
wow, that's awesome. I
So
mean,
just
that's
saying.
what Trump brings to the table is you guys have been doing it all this way, and you think that's the way to do it all this time, and it's not working. It's broken. I am going to show you how I can fix it. And they don't like it because it shows them up. It destroys their pseudo intellectualism, expertise, ability to get things done. They don't get shit done. Trump did more in 4 years than the rest of our political class had done in 30 years.
Yeah, there's something that I saw earlier today, and I think I sent it off to you. And I actually wanted to show that result here, CNN's exit polls from today. And oh my God, are they asking question after question after question? Let me just search for a word here. There we go. Hey, word search, it works. So, feeling about the way things are going in the U.S. So, overall, 7% of Americans are enthusiastic about the way things are going. These are the people known as morons. 19% are satisfied. So we can stick 19 and 7%, and we can come up with 26% of the population is happy about the way things are going. 43% are dissatisfied, 30%, 29% are angry. That's three-quarters of the country who are not happy.
Right.
And people who are, in general, I think it's a good rule to say that people who are dissatisfied with the way the country is going don't start lining up at 8 a.m. on election day to vote for the status quo.
That's exactly right. At best, they won't show up to vote at all.
Yeah, right? If they're unhappy,
that's your best hope.
Yeah, your best shot is that they just aren't going to show up.
Right.
And I hate to use the term genius, but the genius of the Trump campaign. And by the way, I guess we have to have some little shout out to Laura Trump running the RNC.
She's done a very good job. I've actually been surprisingly impressed with her.
After years of Ronna McDaniel, that's not a high bar. But this pursuit of the low propensity voter, and apparently, as far as I can tell, getting them out to the polls is a pretty amazing accomplishment for the Trump campaign. Because I think we talked about
this. As far as we can tell at this point, yeah.
And I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, which is, you can, and I think we were talking about this, in fact, in terms of Scott Pressler. It's one thing to go out to a shopping mall and to find some rando who says, yeah, I never vote. Well, it's important. Would you like me to register you to vote now? Yeah, I would. And they register to vote and they feel a swell of civic pride in their participation in our democracy. And then election day comes around and their cat has a hairball and it's raining and it's really inconvenient. And I forgot to look at
That's a really good point, Dale, it's the follow through.
Exactly.
It's not just the getting them signed up. It's not just the finding them. It's the follow through. You need to get them to the polls. And this is where Scott Pressler, holy crap, this guy, I don't know why he's not being paid millions of dollars to promote get out the vote efforts.
Yeah, he's worth every penny. Why the RNC has not hired him and given him a Bentley is completely beyond me. Because if Pennsylvania goes for
he is solid.
If Pennsylvania goes for Trump, he did it.
He absolutely did.
And there's no other way of saying that. Now, talk about getting people to the polls. In Arizona, Kerry Lake actually had buses all lined up to go
Right.
out, grab people, and
That's
take a
right.
busload by busload to the polls. So, again, whatever you think about Carrie Lake, the fact is that as far as a campaign get out the vote effort, again, she's somebody who left it all on the field.
Which is how it works, right? What's the point otherwise?
By the way, we've been concentrating on the presidency. Let's go back and look at the Senate because
Actually, yeah, I'm really curious about this. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah, there are 2 seat flips, so there are already 50 Republicans in the Senate.
So you already got the Manchin flip, and what's the other flip? Tester? No.
Yes, Tester is going to lose that race.
Yeah, it's Tester.
Tim Sheehy is going to win. So Manchin and Tester.
So that's a good thing. If Trump can win and have a majority in both houses, we could destroy the Department of Education. We could get rid of, oh my God, so much stuff. Oh, get rid of the detritus. It's ugly. It smells. It tastes bad.
Not going to happen in the House.
Well, it depends on how much of a lead you have.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to happen in the House. The Republicans have picked up 2 seats, but once you get out to California, that's all going to go bye-bye.
But how's it going to change anything? It's going to be the same number of people.
Because there are going to be seat flips in California.
There are going to be seat flips?
Yeah, probably.
From what to what? Aren't they all Democrats?
So the
are there Republicans left in the House from out there?
Yeah, the projection is for 219 Democratic seats, 216 Republicans. But a 3-seat majority, yeah, good luck governing with that. I mean, it's not going to be great for Trump because he's going to have a Democratic House. But
but actually,
the seats that the Republicans needed to win, they lost.
Dale, think about that. That means there's not going to be a lot of money being spent, right?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all,
the appropriations have to come from the House.
Yeah. Well, the Republicans are going to hold the Senate. There's no way now that they have less than 51 seats. The Republicans are probably going to pick up
and McConnell's gone, correct?
And McConnell is gone. So it's
McConnell is gone.
It's a whole new ball game
next
for the Republicans.
In line?
Now that's the trouble with the Senate. It's all stupid seniority there. But the
Grassley,
the vulnerable seats for the House, the Democrats kept. So
look at that fucking map. That's just incredible.
Yeah, but again, one seat. And then you come over here and
it's just amazing.
The map isn't large enough to show you all the seats, just like if you go here, the map isn't large enough to show you all the seats. And so, that 54 electoral votes from California, that's a lot of that's 10% of the House. So
I have no idea why my internet is now acting crazy, but
oh yeah, you are.
So I have BBC saying that it's 211 for Trump, 145 for Harris.
We're a little ahead of the BBC, so they're obviously being rather conservative.
We're being cautious.
Yeah, we're at 246 for Trump, vice 162 for Harris.
But see, this is why I like the BBC. They don't get out of hand.
They're cautious. Yeah. Yeah, I saw something really interesting where, hold on, Sherrod Brown lost. That is a question mark.
That's amazing. That's huge.
No, this is a question mark. Sherrod Brown lost. Sherrod Brown, where What district in
Ohio.
state? Who from? Where serves?
It's Ohio.
Uh,
He's he's the
boy, it's
Sherrod Brown
really, it's
is the
really,
senator, right?
it's really hard to find Ohio. Let's see, David Taylor, Thomas
That's
Massey.
Kentucky.
Yeah, I know. It's hard to tell where Kentucky ends and Iowa begins, or Ohio begins on this damn thing. Troy Balderson, Michael Rooney.
No, but those are representatives. That's not
Oh.
that's all he's not running for the House.
Senate. Sorry. Yeah, he lost. That's
Yay!
that's one of the pickups.
That's
So
a big fucking deal. That's a huge fucking deal.
yeah, the
Sherrod
Republicans.
Brown was Obama's head of um what was it, Department of Education?
Yeah, I'm not going to
Or
work in
his
Washington anymore
secretary.
anyway.
Yeah, he was his secretary of education.
Yeah, well, he's gone down. So we're still
Yes.
looking at Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Trump,
Look,
not
these are good signs. This means there's a backlash. There's a serious backlash. Now, I'm going to take you back to, um, let's see, 3 years ago when Governor Youngkin, who is now Governor Youngkin, he was running for governor here in Virginia. He was running against this crazy national wave of how we need to indoctrinate our kids to be transgender and transgender friendly, and there's really no such thing as gender and all the other crap. And there were a bunch of scandals up here in North Virginia. It did not go over well with our electorate. Youngkin came in and said, I'm going to end this crap. And he did, and he got elected, not a landslide, but it certainly in a very comfortable lead. I kind of see like this is what's happening in other areas now. Ohio is definitely one of them. Sherrod Brown, uh, he was, I think he was the Secretary of Education. He, in Ohio, he was in charge of some sort of educational agency. He's never been responsive to parents. He pushes his own agenda, that of the Obama agenda. And I'm not at all surprised that he's getting his comeuppance. People are sick and tired of the woke agenda.
well, he can pursue
They're
all those
not
things as
putting
a
up with it.
he can pursue all those things as a private citizen now. Good luck to him.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. But you cannot use the levers of government to make that happen.
Well, everything that I see indicates that Trump had it right as to who his electorate was, that he had machinery in place to get them out to vote, and the results are what we're seeing now. He is ahead by more than 3 points in Pennsylvania. I'm not entirely sure why we're not calling it. Perhaps because only 67%
I'm okay with that. I'm
votes
okay
are
with
in
that. I'm okay with that.
Philly.
I'm okay with that.
But I mean, these are outside of Philadelphia.
Normally, yeah, any other state you would call that.
Yeah.
It is a swing state. I get it. And Philadelphia is going to come up with some extra votes somehow.
Well, they're going to need to come up with a lot of them because at this point,
that's been the biggest problem.
At this point, Trump is 150,000 votes ahead.
Right. It's been voted beyond the steel at this point. They can't manufacture another 150, 200,000 votes.
Yeah, even at 77.5%, that's a big ask. And again, remember, Pennsylvania still has this huge bolus of absentee ballots with a substantial increase in Republican voting on those absentee
Yeah,
ballots.
exactly. Yeah. So if you assume that, look, let's just assume that they run 5-4, 4-3, something like that. It's still a Republican lead.
Yeah, you've got to chip away at that. I mean, we're at 2.43 million to 2.58 million. You you got to come up with
That's a lot of votes.
you got to come up with 150,000 votes. Even if you include a vote spread like this, that still means you got to come up with 200,000 votes out of whole cloth just to keep these numbers the same.
That's a lot of white vans.
Yeah, that's going to require a convoy of white vans to do that. See, nothing else is going to be coming. Well, no, Dauphin County is still only at 53%, but again, that's only a 55 to 43 or 44% margin.
So just
you're going to have to come up
be
with
clear,
lots
we're
of votes.
agreed. Pennsylvania goes to Trump, it's over.
Yes. If Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin go to Trump, this is
Any
over.
single one of them.
Any one of them, it's over. Because, again, let's go back to 270 to win. So even if we give Nevada and Arizona to...
which is never going to happen, but okay.
Kamala Harris, she has to win. Wisconsin doesn't get her there. Pennsylvania does get her there. So if she wins Pennsylvania and Michigan and Arizona and Nevada.
If she wins Pennsylvania, she's good, but she still needs to win at least two others.
Yes, because let's pull Wisconsin, Arizona, and Nevada off the map. So even if she wins Pennsylvania and she wins Michigan, she's still 10 votes short.
Right.
So she still has to win.
She needs at least one of the other outliers.
Yeah, she has to win at the very least Michigan or Arizona or Nevada. That's assuming she wins Pennsylvania. If she doesn't win Pennsylvania, then
she has to sweep everything. And actually, even that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. If she loses Pennsylvania, she can run the table.
So, like we said, I don't know, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, it comes down to Pennsylvania.
Yeah. If she loses Pennsylvania, she can't win. She can run the table on everything else. But she needed 3 of the 4 states, the blue wall states, plus North Carolina. She needed 3 of those 4.
Yep.
Trump's already got 1.
I don't think she has closed well enough. I don't think she has the support. I think even amongst those Democrats or non-leaners one way or the other who pay attention to stuff, all they see is crap. I mean, she's not inspiring. She doesn't offer anything that would make somebody want to go and vote for her. She has no charisma. She's kind of stupid, to be honest, but whatever.
You know, I always hate talking about people, especially people who've made it as far in life as she has, although Hank Johnson from Georgia is an obvious outlier.
Are you kidding me?
I it's not so much I think that she's stupid. I think she's extraordinarily intellectually lazy. She has received this set of political and ideological precepts, and it has never once occurred to her to question them, to wonder if they were true, to examine them in any significant way. She just accepts them, and she is also because she because she came up in California. She's never, a state where 2/3 of the electorate are registered Democrats. She's never had to seriously defend herself or her policies on anything like an intellectual basis. And she's been able to get by on the standard progressive platitudes. And she's just sort of moved through the system. Doesn't make her dumb, but we used to talk about George W. Bush as, I think the term they used was intellectually incurious. Well, she's intellectually incurious times 10. She has never been confronted with anything, either internally or externally, that has caused her to question herself. And when you're that intellectually...
I was
about to say, when you're that intellectually lazy, it is hard to distinguish from stupidity in many cases.
I think Maxine Waters and stupidity are well acquainted. But I do get your point, and I take your point seriously. So I was actually talking to my daughter, 13, and she raised fairly good point. It's like, well, look, if you don't know a whole lot about it, how can you talk intelligently about it? So I explained to her, it was like, well, you can't, so don't try to. Right? And that's the difference. And she actually, because she's smart, understood that implicitly. She was like, right, you got to learn in order to actually participate. Like, yeah, that's all it is. That's really all it is. For you to pronounce as if you are the oracle from on high, I mean, Maxine Waters has got it. Sheila Jackson Lee. I mean, some of these people are just beyond ridiculous with how they pretend to have any sort of knowledge whatsoever of what they're talking about and prove themselves wrong by just talking.
Well, what's the old movie line? Arrogance and stupidity are no way to go through life, son. But the problem is with a lot of these people in politics, and I think this is generally true just beyond those specific examples, is if you manage to spend 28 years in Washington, D.C. and win elections, it's almost impossible not to think of yourself as some kind of big deal. And
that's right.
When you think you're some kind of big deal,
you earned your spot, right?
Yeah, exactly. By the way, New York Times, for the first time tonight, we consider Trump likely to win the presidency. He has an advantage in each of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. To win, Harris would need to sweep all three. There's still a lot of vote left, but in the voting so far, Trump is narrowly but discernibly ahead. So again, Trump 299 to 239.
New York Times where they're being honest all of a sudden.
You have to explain the needle. either make the needle lie, and the trouble with making the needle lie is that reality will actually occur. And so if the needle reflects reality, you have to admit the needle is pointing in that direction for a reason.
So I'm watching the BBC, and they've got Trump within, I think, less than 20 electoral votes.
Okay, well, I'm still seeing Trump 246, Harris 177. But the percent win chance is now at 83.1. And by the way, since we haven't looked at them in at least 5 minutes.
But they're also saying that Pima County is going to go for Harris.
Yeah, Pima County is going to go for Harris.
By 60-40.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not unusual. By the way, the Harris contract, now 5.5 cents.
You know, it's almost tempting. I got to be honest.
Just because anything could happen. I mean, you don't really know. So I'm curious as to where we're getting $2.99 for Trump, and so I think, well, I just swapped North Carolina, so I think they have to be counting too many clickies.
I said BBC's got a 211-153 Trump to Harris.
So where is the other 2 electoral votes coming from?
It's got to be
Trump?
the Nebraska and what is it, Maine extra votes.
Okay, but that's not how Maine works.
Maine has an extra.
Oh, here's what it would have to be. But no, because then you would get, I suppose it's possible for Trump to take 2 of Nebraska's, but still lose the state. I suppose that's
that's
possible.
not possible. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, because they have 3. Well, they have 3 districts, but it's barely possible that he could win everything but Omaha and still
Nebraska. That has been solid red for what?
I'm sorry,
100 years.
Not losing Nebraska. I'm sorry. That's what we were looking at. But that still gets me to 299.
That's what. That's what they say. That's what they're saying.
They're split electoral votes, though, and
no, they're saying 211-153. So she's starting to pick up because California, Oregon, and Washington are starting to come in. So
okay, now we're getting to Trump. Oh, well, guess what? It's now a 91% chance of victory at the New York Times, and Trump with 301 to Harris's 237.
The New York Times is saying this?
Yeah. I mean, 301.
All right. So right now, BBC has Trump behind 48.3 to 49.9 in Michigan with 34% of the votes counted. Okay.
So let's see how far off they are from that. So, okay, 35% in Michigan. He's behind by 2.3%.
According to, let's see.
Well, this is Decision Desk. So Decision Desk saying 35% reporting, 2.3%.
I'm just telling you, BBC has him down by less than 2%. Now he's down. Wait, no, that's Arizona. Arizona, he's up by 0.1%.
So
with 51.4% reporting.
He's 2 points ahead in Wisconsin with 67% reporting. Yeah.
I'm literally shocked at that.
And now 68% reporting. And he's now 3 points ahead in Wisconsin.
So here's an interesting thing that's been coming up for the past month and a half is that Black men, Hispanic men, Muslim men have been trending towards Trump. What does Wisconsin, especially Milwaukee, have?
Men who ride and make motorcycles.
Right. I mean, there's some crossovers there, right?
Yeah, no, these are going to be small counties, so I'm not going to count on Lafayette and Iowa County or Marquette County. Those are tiny. Nobody lives there. Maybe you got
Well, I mean,
5 to 10,000 voters in those counties. So numbers aren't going to come from there. Milwaukee is
those
90.
numbers have already been counted.
Madison is 90% done. So
What's taking them so goddamn long?
those
There's
votes
only
are not going to come from Madison or from Dane County. So yeah, that's 90% in. So they've got a
so BBC
70,000.
has
Trump has a 70,000 vote lead. So 56%. Does he get 70,000 out of Milwaukee and the last 10%, or out of, Milwaukee and the last 10% out of Dane County? Because that's where the votes are for Harris. And I think he's going to take.
so
I think he's.
Trump is
I think he's going to win
ahead.
Michigan. I'm
If
sorry,
he wins
Wisconsin.
Michigan, it's over.
No, I think he's
Or
going to win
Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
If he wins Wisconsin, it's over.
Well, he's
She
still
can't-
only at
He
246.
does not have a window to victory.
Yeah, unless
He
she.
only had to take one of the three.
Yeah, and it looks like he's going to take Wisconsin, and guys ahead by 2 points in. He's ahead by 2 points in PA now.
And it looks like he's
75%
gonna take
reported.
Arizona. Right now, what I'm seeing is he's going to take Arizona. He's definitely taken North Carolina.
Yeah, I mean,
Has that already been factored in?
yeah, North Carolina's already factored in. So, New York Times, Trump 302, Harris 236.
That's over. That's it. I love this, Dale. We actually we're going to go to bed at some point and have an actual answer.
Yeah, I mean,
This is the thing that we worried that would not happen. We were worried that this was going to take until, like, what? First week of December?
yeah, even Decision Desk now has Trump with an 87.2% chance of winning. It's difficult to see. Let's see, what are we at? 71% in Philadelphia. What do they have to make up? They have to make up about 180,000 votes in Pennsylvania to win the Harris campaign. 180,000 votes.
BBC is saying that Trump's going to take North Carolina. I think that's already been
Yeah, I think
factored in
we've baked that one into
to
the
what we're
cake, I
looking
think.
at. Right.
And now they've lowered Trump's estimate to 299 electoral votes. So where those 3 electoral votes went, I don't know. This is dumb statistical stuff that doesn't make any sense. Trump is not going to just win or lose 2 electoral votes or 3 electoral votes. Let's see, Senate Republicans still. Well, the Republicans are going to have a majority, so there's no reason for us to.
So this is going to
have
be
this discussion
interesting.
anymore.
I don't want to make an assumption that Trump's going to win, but if he does, what is he going to have? What is he going to have to work with? It looks like he will definitely have a GOP Senate. That's what I'm gathering from the information we're getting tonight.
Oh yeah, there's no way the
House is a
Democrats win the
different
Senate
story.
now. I think my mind goes to another question that I think is probably more important, which is, what does this tell us about the alignment of the 2 political parties and who their electorates are?
Good question.
We've kind of grown up with the Republican Party being this movement conservatism, the party of Reagan. I don't think it's the party of Reagan anymore.
It is not.
And I'm curious about, and look, 4 years from now, it's not going to be the party of Trump. Assuming that he wins tonight, this is his last shot. He's got 4 years and he's gone. And I think the interesting question for the Republican Party is, what does a post-Trump, post-movement conservatism, post-Reagan party look like? So the party that we've been used to as Republicans, you and I, for basically all of our lives, that party is dead and gone. It's dead as fried chicken. What party is it? It's clearly got a strain of populism in it. It's clearly got an interest in working people. The Democratic Party's question about what kind of party they are, if you're going to start hemorrhaging black people, which they apparently have, you're going to hemorrhage working people. Look at what happened with the Teamsters unions and the other unions that refused to endorse Kamala Harris. What are you left with other than the donor class and the college-educated professional class? The Democratic Party becomes an even more explicitly statist party of urban professionals. And I don't know how far that reach goes, if that's the kind of party you want to be.
Them even much more isolated than they already are.
And so, the New York Times said that Trump had an advantage in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. And look at this map. He's ahead in all three. He's ahead by a point in Michigan now, 3 points in Wisconsin. Oh, well, almost 4 points now in Pennsylvania.
So I think it's...
oh, by the way, he's ahead in Maine by 3 points. Hello.
In Maine?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah, although it says 6%.
Well, I mean, there's only like 5 votes can change the entire thing. I think it goes a lot to something we've been talking about for, I think, quite some time now. Not always on the podcast, but certainly amongst each other. Is there's this inside outside. Actually, isn't there?
Yes. In fact, in chat, there's Bill Whittle's diagnosis of insiders and outsiders.
Bill
Thank
Whittle.
you, chat.
Right. This is something we've been talking about for quite a long time.
A long time. The uniparty, Republican or Democrat, is a party of insiders.
It's right, exactly. It's the political class versus the rest of us.
And Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump are two sides of the same outsider coin.
Exactly. And even though Bernie Sanders is a complete fucking moron and has no idea what the hell he's talking about, he at least recognizes that you're doing it all wrong. This is not right. This is not how it works.
And he managed to piss off the party enough that they ensured that he could not get the nomination.
I won the Iowa primary and I get no delegates? How does this work? What is this business that you're in that I don't win anything even though I win all the votes?
Yeah.
I don't understand this.
And here's the even worse thing. Let's say they had given him the delegates. It wouldn't have mattered. Because
they can switch their vote anytime they want.
And the super delegates were already in the tank for Hillary. Now, this is starting to look like an interesting result. If Trump wins, I can't believe, I refuse to believe that Trump will win Maine, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan. And yet,
no, that's no. There's
that's
no
what,
way.
that's what we're looking at. Trump now projected 86.8% as the winner.
Well, look, Dale, let's just concentrate on the real stuff. No matter what, we said, I mean, how many months ago? Whoever wins Pennsylvania wins the race. I think that still holds true today.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, it is the keystone state, and it's certainly the keystone state for this election.
And if Kamala can win that state, then guess what? She's also going to win at least one of Michigan or Wisconsin.
Yeah, but her problem is she needs to win them all.
She doesn't need to win them all. If she wins Pennsylvania, she can win one of the others.
Oh, yeah, that's right. If she wins Pennsylvania. Is that likely to happen?
I don't think so, but like I said, we have been saying this now for several months. Wisconsin, Pennsylvania is where it all comes down to. That's where the cookie crumbles. That's where it all happens, and we've been right. We've been very right.
Yep. But at this point, she now needs 200,000 votes. She's got to gain 3%.
What I don't like is that there's a certain number of votes known to anybody in Pennsylvania that she needs. That scares me more than anything.
Yes, and Philadelphia's only 72% in.
Right, exactly. So, wait, hold on. So now we got some trucks coming in.
Yeah, that 77.2% might jump to 99.5% on that last.
It's amazing how often Philadelphia and Pittsburgh have more than 100% of their electorate voting.
And by amazing, you mean expected?
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think that the Trump campaign, and not just the Trump campaign, the RNC, all the other people invested in getting Trump into office, who weren't really coordinated with Trump, have done an outstanding job of saying, hey, look, they are going to try to steal it. Don't let them. Make sure you show up. Show up. Bring 10 friends. Get your people out there. I mean, there was a serious activist movement for this election that I hadn't seen in a long time, at least not from Republicans. Really, really well coordinated. I mean, we've been talking about Scott Pressler. The amount of work that guy did alone, just that one guy. It's amazing to me the amount of work he put in just to make sure that he could register and get people to the polls.
And why he's not working for the GOP is because what he did in Pennsylvania could be done elsewhere.
Exactly.
Everywhere. It might be harder to do in Colorado or, Vermont, and certainly in New York and Massachusetts, that you don't have enough space outside, like Massachusetts, outside of Boston, Cambridge, that area. You just don't have enough space to run that kind of operation. Pennsylvania is a state where you can. It might be
two polarizing cities and then everything else in between.
Yeah, now it'd be interesting to see if you could run that kind of model in Colorado or New Mexico.
I think you could do that in Colorado. I really do think you could do that in Colorado. New Mexico, I'm not saying you couldn't do it. It's just you'd have to do it a lot differently. But I think Colorado, that's actually a really good comparison, Colorado, because you've got these small enclaves, Denver, Colorado Springs, uh, you know, wherever else. I mean, there's these. I mean, Denver's obviously the big place, but there are a lot of smallish, mid-sized cities around Denver and down south on the borders. And Colorado's sort of an interesting place. There's a lot of it's a weird mix of people who kind of want to do their own thing. I think there's a lot of fun that could be had there for an actual activist to like a Scott Pressler to actually galvanize a vote, to actually get people to uh, get behind an issue.
Yeah, well,
I think he could do
Colorado
that.
also, you have places to go outside of Denver, right? I mean,
Right.
Colorado Springs, Grand Junction. I mean, you've got places that you might be, now Boulder is probably lost, but there might be
So
places that
North Carolina
you
just
could
got
go.
called. We already had North Carolina called. Okay.
But the key, of course, is finding the way the Trump campaign did and Scott Pressler did in Pennsylvania, is finding these low propensity voters and doing the work to
That's the
get
big
them to
deal.
vote.
Right.
And
And
you've got to be able to find the issues that are important to those voters that will motivate them to get out and vote. I think it's probably easier to do if you have a situation where three quarters of the electorate are dissatisfied with the direction of the country.
right.
In a 50-50 country, would Scott Pressler be able to pull that off? That's an interesting question.
Probably, at the margins, might get one or two. You know what I mean?
This is kind of a weird election in terms of how things have gone for the last 4 years, really the last 5 years, ever since COVID hit. It seemed like things were ticking along fairly well. Then COVID hit, and then everything since 2020 has turned into a shit show. And in a normal
And by
election,
shit show, you mean that the government has just gone absolute ape shit in trying to control us, tell us what to do, make us do things, forcing shots on us and all kinds of other stuff, threatening to take away our livelihoods if we don't get the shots. Like, yeah, shit show.
yeah, and that shit show hasn't stopped since we exited the pandemic. There were just different shit shows. Okay, let's just leave everything in Afghanistan and just turn the whole place back over to the Taliban after 20 years of American blood, sweat, and tears. Now, we can have a long discussion about whether there should have been 20 years of Americans in Afghanistan and have a war old enough to register for college. But there was that, then the inflation, and then the influx of illegal immigrants. I mean, it all stemmed. 5 years ago, this entire reign of shit just started, and the only difference has been month to month is that the shit is a slightly different color and has a slightly different odor. It's still been shit, and so it's a
It's
lot
still
easier
being
to
shoved down our fucking throats.
yeah, and it's a lot easier to pull these disaffected voters in to say, okay, something's got to change because this is turning into a nightmare. Can you do that if you have a 50-50 country of people who are outside of, some issues at the margins, are more or less happy with the way things are going? I think that's
In
an open
a
question.
non-free country, yeah, you can get away with that.
Yeah, but in a free country, you know, Things have to
which
be.
is why they have been trying so hard to shove down on our ability to say things and to have free speech, because what they want is for just, they want compliance. Now we recognize this. It's not even you and I, or like even our brethren. It's pretty much every American recognizes this, that wait, you're just trying to shut me up because you don't want to hear what I have to say, and you think that you're just right. And I don't agree with you. That's been going on now for since 2020. So good for 4 or 5 years. Yeah, I think this gives Trump a few votes.
Yeah, so let's take a look. Just one more quick look back down at the House. No real switches. One seat. Senate definitely going to be Republican. California, yep. Guess what? 60% of Californians are registered Democrats, and 60% of them are voting for Kamala Harris. Oregon, a lot more even so far. 74% of the vote
Wait,
in.
hold on, go back. Is that it's 52%?
Yeah, in
Is
Oregon.
that in oh, that's Oregon.
Yeah,
Oregon,
that's
sorry.
Oregon. California, it's 60%, 59.4,
The morons. What kind of
and
idiots live in California?
58.8 in Washington. Yeah, Washington is another one of those states that has the 1-800-pound gorilla urban area and then a whole bunch of ranchers. And by a whole bunch, I mean a tiny number of ranchers.
So
So,
even my wife, who now look, you've met my wife. She's a very smart lady. She studied politics under Larry Sabato, the Larry Sabato, right? She finally came around to the idea about, I don't know, 8 or 9 months ago. Like, why is it we let Northern Virginia and Richmond decide all of our state politics? Why don't we have like an electoral college for our state?
we used to. That's now illegal, according to the Supreme Court. I mean, you didn't have an electoral college, but you had regional representation
You
in the
had
state Senate.
regional elections.
Yeah, that you can't do that anymore.
Oh,
So the very structure of the federal government with a Senate with 2 seats per state is unconstitutional at the state level to have like 2 seats per county.
and yet, how does every state work? Do you think for a second that Illinois would be a blue state if it had an actual electoral college type system in order to elect its executive officers? Um,
Or even
New
if they
York,
just did regional representation in the state
New
Senate.
Jersey, Massachusetts, Virginia? Are you kidding me? Virginia? No way Virginia would be that way. It's, and yet we're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, and Virginia is a really weird version of it because unlike any other place in the country, Prince William, Loudoun, Fairfax, those 3 counties are so beholden to the federal government. And they manage to drag the rest of Virginia. Well,
Alexandria.
and then there's Richmond, where the Richmond Fed is the biggest building downtown. Um, it really is people who are beholden to the federal government that run the politics of the state of Virginia, and certainly make up a majority of the electorate.
Yeah, it's always been a problem, and it's not that I'm opposed to people having their say about their local area, but you don't get a say over everything that we do. And I would much prefer some sort of electoral college type system to where people who live down in Roanoke, up in Berryville, down in Danville, actually have a say in what goes on in our state, as opposed to everybody from Richmond, everybody from Northern Virginia, and everybody from Norfolk. And that's it. That's the only people who have any say at all in what goes on in my state. And that's
Well,
ridiculous.
again, it's one of the boy. I got to be careful how I phrase this. Well, I'll just say it's one of the problems with democracy. If you're going to do one man,
There are a lot of problems with democracy, Dale. That's
if
not a bad thing to say.
you're going to do one man, one vote, and you're going to have these big urban centers, and they're going to make up 40 to 50% of your population, then half of 40, then the other 50 to 40 or 50% of your population is just not going to be represented. They just aren't.
No,
Because
and you could never be truly representative. It's not possible. There is literally no possibility of that ever happening. You can't do it. Look, if I am, my wife and I have 10 kids, all under the age of 18. We're only two votes, but we're 12 people. We can't, you know, we don't have the ability to represent all of our family. That's just how it happens. That's just how it works. What you do have is the ability to say your piece and have it actually count away from these population centers that don't even think about it. Oh, we got a breaking. We're getting a break. Trump projected to win North Carolina,
oh well,
bring him to 230.
thank you for that blinding glimpse of the obvious. I'm seeing Trump at 247 to Harris's 204.
I'm going with BBC because they are careful.
New York Times.
They do not want to upset the China teapot.
New York Times now giving Trump a 90% chance of victory.
Dale, I think it's possible. We may, well, no, we won't.
I don't think at this point, because it's midnight out there.
We only have 8 minutes.
It's 9 o'clock out here
on the East Coast.
Yeah, so I think we're going to have to shut this thing down here in the next couple of minutes. We gave it the old college try. I just don't think we're going to know what the final results are in Michigan, Wisconsin, or Pennsylvania. They are close, but I think they're swinging.
I'll go another 30 minutes with you. If you're, I'm happy to go another 30 minutes with you.
Okay, I'm happy to go another 30 minutes too, because if I stop, what I'm going to do is turn the TV on.
There may be some things that break.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Whenever we start looking at Pennsylvania is now at 80% reporting. Michigan now only at 45%, although Trump is up by more than 2 points. And I keep hitting the wrong freaking thing. I hate that I do that. And Wisconsin's at 84%.
Wow. That looks so really good for Trump.
Now we're looking at 400,000 votes.
I'm really shocked about this.
Now where does Kamala Harris come up with 400,000 votes? Well, 380,000 votes.
I mean, the only place you can come up with them is in that Green Bay area.
Except Green Bay's voting for Trump by 61% in Brown County.
Yeah.
Milwaukee, 66.2. Again, they're only 61%.
That's where her stronghold is. That's her stronghold.
Yeah, but look, Milwaukee isn't that big of an area, right? Milwaukee has about 400-ish thousand voters. You're not going to make and 266,000.
You mean like all those BLM rioters and protesters drove people out of the area?
Yeah,
well, that's a shit.
I mean, she's not getting 380,000 votes out of Milwaukee. She's just not, because
Not at this point, no.
they're already 61% in. In fact, I'm not even sure why Wisconsin hasn't been called. I just don't see where that
what's the
300,000 vote
weird
margin
county
comes
up
from.
there on the top left corner? Yeah, that one.
Okay. In Bayfield County, the neighboring county, there
No,
are
not that one, the
9,000
next
votes. So in Douglas County, how many votes do you think there are if Bayfield has 9,000?
Like 7, 8.
Maybe. Down here around Madison in Iowa County. Well, again, that's not even around Madison. I mean, that's a whole county away. Nothing reported. Don't know what's going on there. Madison County, 95% in. So the 400, or Dane County rather, in Dane County in Madison, Wisconsin, they've already got their.
Figure out how they can import about 150,000 voters.
Yeah, I mean, look at the margin. Trump is ahead by 12 points, 14 points.
Yeah, that's not winnable.
I don't know where these votes aren't coming from. Why aren't we calling Wisconsin? As far as I can tell, Trump has won it. Is it because, Iowa County and
so
Douglas County haven't reported in yet?
Wisconsin's 12 points?
Wisconsin is 10.
10. Okay.
But, I mean, that essentially puts Trump over the top.
I think that's right.
So don't know what's going on there. I just know that 56.1 to 42.6%. I don't know where the rest of these votes are coming from. Because, again, 61% of the votes are in Milwaukee County. 61% of the votes are 266,000. So that means that there is potentially another 140,000 votes, 150,000 votes-ish, that are available in Milwaukee. And a third of them have broken for Trump. So that's under 100,000 votes, maybe 100,000. Let's call it that even. Our margin is 1.5 to 1.2 million. Oh, wait a second. What the hell just happened?
Yeah, what the hell did just happen?
Did you see what I just saw?
Yeah.
That dropped in
What?
a big...
Where did those votes come from?
That dropped in a big bolus of votes, and it is now dead even in Wisconsin, with 80% reporting.
Well, where did they come from?
I don't know. All I can do is look at the numbers that I'm looking at in front of my face, and we just saw them jump. And
well, which county just got closed down?
I don't know. We're now at 80% reporting, 92, 95. Oh, Dane County, we are now 95% in. No, still 61% and 36% in Brown County. Nobody lives there.
This is bullshit.
Yeah, that was a big jump that I did not expect. I mean, that looked like Trump had just won Wisconsin. We're sitting here trying to figure out where those votes came from, and now we're back. Okay, I don't know what that was, but we've now dropped back to 77%, and we're now back to 51 to 47. And our number is, well, it's still, well, now it's a little less than 100,000. So I don't know what's being dropped on us in these big boluses, but okay.
I'll give them the benefit of the doubt that they're just, they were not terribly cognizant of how the numbers they inputted.
Yeah. Well, also, we're watching, Decision Desk. Somebody is putting these numbers in.
I'll give them a break.
We'll give them a break. That was just a huge move. Now, by the way, this looks a lot more. Now we're 90,000 votes. Okay, there are potentially 90,000 votes left in Milwaukee for Harris. So potentially Harris could pull out a 90,000 vote and overcome that lead from the rest of the state. That's possible. So it does make a little more sense as to why they're not calling it.
All right, so it's midnight. Everything other than Alaska, Hawaii is closed?
Yeah, pretty much. And Alaska's already gone Republican, so.
Right.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry.
And Hawaii is already
I'm not looking at live election
Democrat.
results. I was looking at 270 to win. So, Alaska, nothing reported in Alaska. Nothing reported in Nevada either. Although, you know what? I don't think Nevada is a player. I think Nevada is pretty much losing.
Nevada may be an also ran, yeah.
Yeah, Arizona's still important.
I can't believe
Trump ahead by 0.4%.
Wisconsin is seriously in Trump territory, as is Michigan right now.
No.
I mean, look at that. That's the blue wall. If he wins all three of those, I mean, this is a landslide.
Yeah, this is almost a 4-point difference in Wisconsin. I mean, it looks like Wisconsin. I mean, it could change. Maybe there's a big bolus of absentee ballots from Democrats. Something else just popped in. Marquette County. Again.
Georgia? Oh, Wisconsin.
Yeah, Kamala Harris, 54.9%. But again, 37,469 votes. So there's still a 88,000 vote delta between Harris and Trump. So Madison is.
So I just got to turn this. This is what the BBC is looking at. Okay, now of course, as soon as I do that, they go to the House and the Senate.
Of course.
Freaking assholes. Well, limeys.
Well, we tried.
But they were showing a much different I mean, they're basically predicting that Trump's going to win.
Well, as far as I can tell, based on what I see, and of course, all of the data that is coming into our election center here at our high-tech reporting center that we have, we're being fed data constantly. Yeah, it looks like Trump is headed for victory. Again, it is possible for Kamala Harris to pull 90,000, but boy, that would mean there would be a 10,000 vote spread. And it could be true, but it could be that Wisconsin, whoever wins Wisconsin, is going to win it by 10,000 points, 15,000 points.
Right, yeah.
I mean, it could be that close.
This is strangely reminiscent of when we did this. Well, we didn't do it live, obviously, but when you and I were on the phone in 2016, going through this stuff, and it looks a lot closer to that than to 2020.
Yeah, it does. Look, we can talk a lot about 2020 and all the weird things that went on in that election. And we don't even really have to talk about we don't really have to talk about cheating or anything like that. The fact was,
it doesn't matter. It's over.
It's over. And again, I think there was some level of Trump fatigue. And Trump's argument has essentially been, oh, you were fatigued with me because of the mean tweets. Well, how's that working out for you? And as it turns out, mean tweets are better than $20 eggs. So, I mean, he had a
It wasn't a hard
compelling argument.
choice.
No, and then of course, look, Biden was a disaster, and he clearly A, should not be president of the United States, and B, was incapable of campaigning and doing the things that he would have needed to do to win this election. But I think the Democrats' big mistake this cycle was just defaulting back to Kamala Harris and not saying, look, let's try to figure out some sort of primary system that we can do in a month and see if we can pick somebody and just open it up and let anybody run. They so jumped on Kamala Harris.
I don't think that would have made any difference. Because who did they have?
Do you think Josh Shapiro would be in this same position? Do you think he'd be in this position in Pennsylvania?
I don't think. Yeah, no, you're right. Josh Shapiro could have thrown his hat in the ring, except he was fighting upstream as almost, well, there was a significant current of anti-Semitism that he would have to fight against, which is the reason that he didn't get picked as the VP candidate.
Yeah,
right?
but again, if you'd had a primary, how much of that would have gone by the wayside?
If you had an actual primary, Harris would have been tossed aside. They would have picked, I don't know, Hillary. They would have gone back to their basket of, reliables. They certainly weren't going to go with Bernie, who has just won and is not going to be a senator until he's 90.
Yeah, but look, it's difficult for me to see any argument that would say that going back to one of the old reliables would have been a worse choice than just crowning Kamala Harris.
She's a moron. She's an absolute moron. This woman has not even the basic, concept of intelligence, of discernment, of the ability to tell what's right, what's wrong. She's clueless. She's absolutely clueless.
Oh, by the way, from chat, see you tomorrow when she pulls it out.
I don't think she's going to. I think it's over. I mean, hey, you know what? Well respected comment. Well respected.
Mary Martin asks, what about Hawaii? There's no reason to even look at Hawaii. A, they're not going to close for a long time. And B, Hawaii votes Democrat reliably and has for 60 years.
Forever? Yeah.
So,
and it's 3 votes.
Those 3 electoral votes are unimportant. Alaska's is unimportant. Look, we all know that Alaska is
always going to go to Republicans.
Is going to go to Republicans. Hawaii's always going to go to Democrats. And those 3 electoral votes from Alaska and Hawaii will thus cancel each other out.
Right. Who cares? It's
like
Delaware and DC. Actually, no, that's wrong. Delaware and actually, you know what? Delaware does not have a counterbalance. It used to be that Delaware was the counterbalance to either DC or Rhode Island until all the banks came down, and then it turned blue.
Solid blue.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Meanwhile, in Maine, the mule trains that they apparently use to transport their ballots have not yet reached their locations, and we are only 35% reporting in Maine.
It's snowy, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it wasn't mule trains, it's dog sleds. Well, actually, I think dog sleds could get this reported faster than what we're seeing reported. I love the fact that Jill Stein is winning by 1% there and that Cornel West is taking another 0.3%. However, you have to counterbalance that with Chase Oliver, the libertarian
The
candidate.
libertarian. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I put that in scare quotes for him. He's at 0.7%. So,
I don't even I have no idea what his libertarian bona fides are. I assume that he wants drugs to be legal.
yeah, I don't know either because he's not libertarian in any of the
Economic
traditional ways.
or
Yeah.
like actual governance sense.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah, this is something obviously we've been talking about for I don't even know how fucking long. You know, libertarian. It's not just about the drugs, man. It's not just about being free to do whatever the fuck you want to do and being libertine. It's actually about having a society that can exist and coexist together that's actually unified, but under a system that's not going to impede upon your individual predilections without some goddamn really good fucking reasons. Pretty simple. It's minarchist. I
yeah,
think
but
is the other, right?
look, the Libertarian Party got taken over long
No,
ago.
they're a bunch of morons. I get it.
Yeah, it's
What did I do, Dale? Dale.
I don't know because I don't know what you're looking at. I think we're getting close in Pennsylvania. 84% reporting. Trump still up by 140,000
Look at that map.
votes.
Look at that map.
Yeah, we're getting close, getting very close. If it gets called for,
We're agreed that like what if this gets called for Trump, it's over.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. There's no possible way for Kamala Harris to win
I absolutely
if she
agree.
loses
Absolutely.
Pennsylvania. At this, she can run the table on everything else, and she loses. Those 19 votes put Trump over the top.
All right, so the polls are closed in all 7 key states. So that's going to be
Nevada still
Georgia,
reporting
North
nothing.
Carolina, um, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona.
Yeah, Nevada's not reporting anything yet.
They never do. They take forever.
Still only 55% in Tucson or in Arizona. They're still counting. Trump currently ahead by 0.6 of a point.
Means nothing at this point.
However, the president win chance on Decision Desk just jumped to 91.9% for Trump.
Really? That's the New York Times one?
No, that's the Decision Desk. Basically, it's
Oh, that's
the Hill.
That's the ace of spades. No, that's New York Times. You're looking at New York Times.
No, now I'm looking at the New York Times. The New York Times has the needles. Decision Desk has the graphs.
Okay.
The line graph. So, yeah, Decision Desk still at 90% chance for Trump. Yeah, this hasn't changed for a while. So it's looking like their final forecast is showing Trump winning both the popular vote and the Electoral College.
So Dale, let's switch gears. What's going to happen tomorrow? Let's say we actually have a known decision tonight. What's going to happen tomorrow?
That's a good question.
I mean, I showed you the pictures. I sent you the pictures.
Yes.
Clearly, there are people who are afraid that Trump is going to win and there's going to be a backlash.
Several blue cities have been boarding up all of their glass storefronts. Washington, D.C. has done the same. Seen several pictures of that for the past 2 days. Which, by the way, maybe that was an early sign that we should have looked at that, these people aren't all that
Yeah,
confident.
there was something there. Somebody knows something.
Because if you're in Washington, D.C., not traditionally a Republican stronghold, and you expect Kamala Harris to win, then the joyous exuberance felt by your people would tend to mitigate against breaking windows and looting. So that was a sign that they think that if there are going to be riots,
There's an
it's because Trump is going to
expectation.
win.
There's dirty work afoot.
Yeah. So, I mean, some people were just thinking ahead. Oh, by the way, we haven't done this for a while. And Lord knows we want to do it. Well, now I've gone here so many times it's in my search bar. 3.3% to buy Kamala Harris. You know, I get the sense that this is over. And, you know, we talked, I think, last week and week before last. The sense was, and I didn't want to jinx it, and I certainly didn't want to jump into being a, you know, predictor of the future. But the sense was that this thing was breaking Trump's way. That the PR campaign to push Kamala Harris as a possible president just ran out of gas.
Yeah. I can't remember if we talked about that off or on the air, but yeah, there was definitely a sense that we don't have anything left. We don't. We can only boost a fake person so much.
And so when it came down to, I was just looking at the New York Times state of the race for the House. Still don't know who's going to control, but all of these California districts all got to come in. And that's going to be a bunch of Democrats.
They're all going to be Democrat. We already know that. But you also have all Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina. Virginia, actually, it might make a difference here. Certainly Kentucky. Ohio is another big one. Ohio is one that is sort of sneaky because you have, if I recall correctly, JD Vance did not run for his seat. And there is an open seat in Ohio for the Senate. Am I right about that?
That is an excellent question, and I don't know the answer to that question because the only seat that was up was Sherrod Brown's, and
right, and also in Ohio, yeah.
So J.D. Vance was elected in 2022 was when he was elected, right?
So he's only been, yeah. So
there are 4 years left on his
he's
term.
not up for re-election. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 4 years left on his term. So he is going to have to resign that seat, presumably, and they'll have
Eventually.
to be a special. There'll have to be a special. Well, he'll have to resign it by January 20th. Which is
going to mean that who wins the governorship? Well, I mean, it's still Mike DeWine.
Mike DeWine. So it's going to be a Republican senator.
Although sort of Republican.
Yeah, Republican senator. Yeah. Let's go back and just see. I mean, it's 19 minutes after 9 my time, 19 minutes after 12 your time. So our time is getting a little bit short here.
I'm watching some returns on BBC from Michigan, and wow. Even in the counties that Harris is winning, 5 6 points. That's not a good look for her.
It's she has, I think, undeniably across the board vastly underperformed Joe Biden in 2020.
Well, and we know that we've known that now for a few weeks, but seeing it on election day, yeah, she's not doing well. Doesn't mean she's not going to win Michigan. Don't get me wrong, but she is underperforming like hell.
Well, let's run through it real quick before we have to go. She is 100,000, 110,000 votes behind still in Wisconsin at 80% reporting.
Right.
Again, Milwaukee. They're awfully slow in Milwaukee for some reason.
Just how
Awfully
many
slow.
votes were we behind?
Yeah, well, they can see the total right now. And we just got an update on some numbers. Trump is 3 points ahead, 4 points ahead, almost 3.8.
No way. What? And was what?
Yeah, Wisconsin.
No.
Trump 51.2, Harris 47.4.
With how much?
There's now almost exactly 100,000 votes between them. So Trump just got a bump of 20,000 votes, and it wasn't from Milwaukee County. It
wasn't from Milwaukee.
Yeah, I'm not sure where that came from, but we're now at 80% reporting in Wisconsin, and Trump is ahead by a lot. I mean, I suppose there's a chance still that Milwaukee could bring this bad boy in for Kamala Harris, but that window's closing. And more votes just came in. Trump now has just lost. Trump has gained. Now he is 102,000 votes ahead in Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah. So that seems like.
Dale, are we looking at a potential like Reagan 1980 type of, not that far. I don't want to go that far, but in the realm of a 1980 type of.
Yeah, Trump could pull 300. Yeah, Trump could pull 300 electoral. I think Reagan won in 80 with 302 electoral votes.
Yeah,
and we could very well
looking
be
at like 312.
Looking at that now, Michigan, we're still way behind on counting. Only 57% in, so we're still under 60%. Trump ahead by 3.1 points. He's up by 130,000 votes in Michigan. And but Detroit, only 32% in. But it is just Detroit that's only 32% in. Grand Rapids, 72% in. So, yeah, we're still waiting on Detroit. Now, looking at those numbers, first of all, Detroit ain't all that big anymore. You know, we think of Detroit as having a couple of million people. It don't.
No.
So basically, Detroit has about 900,000 votes. They've counted about 270,000 of them. And Trump is getting 30% of those. So it's quite possible he could lose Michigan just based on Detroit.
So one of the
alone.
stories that's going to emerge from this is how well Trump did amongst men in general, but Black men, Hispanic men, just men in general, but certainly amongst those two demographics. This is going to become a story. It's going to become, people are going to write books about this, right?
Yeah, this has been maybe the strangest campaign of my lifetime. I mean, it certainly has been an abnormal. Well, there's really no way in which this campaign has been normal. I'm not going to say it may have been. This is the weirdest presidential campaign I can think of.
I can't disagree.
And not just, and probably since Reconstruction, probably since 1876, when a rather corrupt deal got a Democrat elected president by the House.
Well, I mean, even if you go back to, to 1860, when, Lincoln was running for president.
Well,
I mean,
yeah,
there was a lot of weird things that went on there, and they continued for the next several, 15 years, 18 years, whatever.
Yeah, but I mean, that was...
yeah, you're right.
You had the whole slavery question hanging over the head.
Right.
The Whig Party just self-destructed after 1856. That was super weird. But other than, Rutherford B. Hayes getting elected in 1876, that was a weird election because A, it went to the House, and B, the only reason that he won that election was because he made a deal that he would end Reconstruction. Right. So, that was iffy. But all of our elections since then have been, just sort of the normal Democratic weirdness.
There's been a fairly normal Democratic process for the last 160 years or so.
Yeah. This one is odd, and I think it's because we're in the middle of a realignment of what the two parties actually stand for and what they mean.
And I think that 95% of the people who are out there who vote for Trump would say, hell yeah, what the fuck? We have a uniparty. They all do the same thing. It doesn't matter what they say they're Republican, they're Democrat, they're independent, they're whatever. They all do the same goddamn things. And people are sick and tired of it. The one thing that Trump has, which is, I gotta be honest, it's the oddest thing of all the things that he could have, is authenticity. He is literally, I mean, I know that makes no sense. But he is literally the most authentic candidate for any office you're going to have. He tells you exactly what he thinks.
That's the thing about Donald Trump. And it's one of the things, and I think Victor Davis Hanson made an interesting historical connection between Donald Trump, the type of person that he is, and George W. Patton. And that they both say rather blunt things, and they say it without apology and without explanation, because that's who they are. And George Patton was one of those fellas that we were so happy he got in a car accident and got killed in 1945 because he wouldn't be out there being a pain in the ass for the next 10 or 15 years. And Donald Trump is a similar kind of character. He just has no filter. He tells you pretty much what he thinks at any given time of day or night. And he is who he is. So many people over the past 10 years have looked at Donald Trump and have tried to find what the hidden depths are. Some of them on the right who have been saying, yeah, this is Donald Trump playing 16-dimensional chess and he'll defeat the deep state. He has a plan. No, he doesn't. He doesn't. He's just who he is. And he does what he thinks he should do at any given moment. And the people on the left who've been for the past 6 months, Donald Trump wants to destroy democracy and there'll never be... Oprah Winfrey came out yesterday. There'll never be another election. I fear that this may be our last election. Donald Trump hadn't thought into it. Donald Trump hadn't thought into it that much. I guarantee you. He's not some four-dimensional chess playing genius. He is the guy who he is, and he's telling you who he is.
Look, I think he's smarter than people give him credit, than I gave him credit for. But it really has nothing to do with any of that. It's not that he's smart. It's not that he's clever. It's not that he is even really capable. What he is relatable. I mean, look at it. This is a guy who was born on third base. He was born on third base and can still relate to like every working class person he has ever come across, because he literally, he's being honest. He's just being honest. And I guarantee you that honesty is not his first go round in any situation. But when it comes to people, and people really feel this. I've seen it on a human level. He comes across as, hey, you know what? I'm concerned about you. What can I do to help you? What is it that I can do for you? I believe that my position in all this privilege that I have is to be able to help you. It's, I mean, frankly, sort of, what's his name? Never mind. He understands that he has a privilege, and he wants to make something of that and help people. People like really get that. Like they really, really feel that. He has a sincerity that people feel.
He is authentically who he is. And I think it's fascinating that the multi-millionaire, if not billionaire construction mogul from New York City has a closer touch to the average working person than the child who is raised by a middle-class mother from a middle-class family.
In Montreal.
Yeah, in Montreal. That hotbed of American
middle-class values.
Middle-class values. Well, look, Michael, it's after 9:30, and we could probably sit here for another 2 hours waiting for a call, but I just don't think it's going to come. And I think we've done...
I agree with you.
I think we've done about what we can.
I'm perfectly happy to end this now. And you know what? I think this was an excellent... So, just for the audience's sake, this is something that Dale and I would do regardless.
Yes.
Like,
we would
record this.
We would still be on the phone.
What we would do.
Yeah, you just wouldn't be hearing it. But you have heard it, and we appreciate the fact that you have. Michael, we'll talk to you at the beginning of next week. Have a great week. And for everybody else who has been watching, I'm just going to go say good night. Tomorrow, we may or may not know more. Let's leave you, however, with the New York Times. Likely Trump chance of victory, 91%. And with that, we are done. And we'll see you next time. Have a great week. So long.